Are we gonna just start like this?
Well, I want to do a little tour of the food.
Sure, let's do a tour of the food. Tour de food.
High Phrase Podcast, happy 420 edition. We have Necole Hines from Faded Living, ACDJ in the building, as you can see like usual.
Living faded.
And we got a lot of really wonderful looking food here. And I want to kind of take some time just to break down exactly what we have here and what it's going to do to us after we have eaten some of this food.
Yes.
So let's start with this ginger beer. Can you break down what this looks like?
Okay, so there's a lot of ways to make homemade ginger beer, but I chose to do a quick and easy version. It's not alcoholic, so I added the alcohol. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But essentially, I made a concentrate. So it's like blending ginger and getting it to that pulp, and you're kind of like squeezing out the juice from
Which
the
is
pulp.
a large process.
Sure is.
Holy smokes, I know.
You know what I mean? So there is
Yeah.
some love in this ginger beer.
Yeah.
And basically you do it kind of like 3 times. And after I got that juice, then you add some lemon juice. And I added some infused honey for the sweetener.
Nice.
So I infused the honey, added that. I even added some allspice because allspice is like very Caribbean. It's part of the cinnamon family, nutmeg family, and I find that it works really well with cannabis. So that's why I added that. And then, of course, the infused Brazilian rum that I added.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Brazilian
so
rum.
I did. It's called LeBlanc, and it's 40% alcohol. So
Yeah.
it's a thing. And so you basically shake it. You know what I mean? You're gonna shake it before you use it. But in order to get the fizziness, because literally you could take a shot of this if you wanted to, but to give that sort of fizz, just add some sparkling water or carbonated water, club soda, etc.
What is the health benefit of a drink like that? You know,
Ginger's great, right?
ginger's good for you. It's the blood, right?
That's
Good
exactly,
for the blood.
exactly. And
Circulation.
and the fact that that's all it is like just the ginger itself. Like honey is a great sweetener, I find.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then and lemon juice. I mean, really and truly, like, and water. I mean, hey.
Yeah. Booze.
And do you find when you infuse cannabis into any kind of a food, it always retains a little bit of that taste of cannabis?
I find that when you infuse it with Caribbean cooking, it actually complements it.
Oh,
Nice.
I bet it does. The spice.
For me. Yes.
Spice.
Coming from Jamaican background. Toronto
Right.
born and raised, but Jamaica, my parents
So
are
your
Jamaican,
parents,
so
both parents from Jamaica?
both parents from Jamaica.
And they moved up to Canada?
Yeah,
And then
so I
they
was
had
born,
you?
yeah, and they had me.
Have you been back to Jamaica?
I have been a few times, but I need to go back proper.
It's quite the
Love
trip.
that place.
It is quite
Love
the
that
trip.
place.
And then the further that you are from Ontario, it's quite the trip.
Yeah.
Ontario is where you can just go to Jamaica like nobody's business. Like
Yeah.
they have great flights, but when you start going really west,
Isn't it farther to Vancouver than it is to Jamaica from Toronto? Is something I heard some crazy stat like
yeah,
that.
I think so. I think
Like it's farther distance.
yeah,
Insane.
it's foolish.
All right, so what else we got here? Do you have another
So now
Jamaican classic?
we have Jamaican patties. So I do handmade Jamaican patties.
Nice.
These ones are vegetarian. I did use veggie ground round just to kind of give it that, the beef,
Assimilated
beef. But that's the only substitute that I like. However, there are a lot of other vegetables in there. There are potatoes in there.
Nice.
I fried the potato, like I fried it, so it's like the potatoes are a nice consistency. And then there's like carrots and red peppers, green peppers, onions, garlic, that type of thing.
Oh,
right?
nice.
A little
Very
curry
tasty.
spice in there.
Nice.
But this is not infused, but what is infused, which is, hold on, here we go. This is the chutney.
Yeah.
So this is an apple pear chutney with dried cranberries. And what I infuse this with is an infused, I've got coconut oil in there, and then I also put in a little bit of the infused rum, just a touch.
Nice.
So you
Great.
can dip that in there because if you find this too spicy,
Yeah.
here's
Just
the
put a little-
sweetness.
Just put a little sweetness
Absolutely.
on there.
Oh, we
That's
from
what I'm
Fiji,
here
you all about that
for.
Indian spice.
And can I just say about this is that it's not just for patties. You can actually add it to your yogurt and granola.
Oh, nice.
You can add it to ice cream.
You can just add it to wherever.
If you eat meat and you eat a ham, this
Yeah.
would be great with a ham. Pork chops on the side,
If
like.
you're eating ham, stop it. If you're a
I'm
ham
just
eater and
saying,
you're watching,
if you're trying to,
stop
if you're
eating
living
ham.
that life, if you're living that life,
Yes.
there's options with the chutney.
Yeah, that's so good. And do you find like the sauces are the best for
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. And that's why even with the beverage. So it's like anytime you're applying heat to the oil that you might have made to do your infusions, the more heat you apply, the more you're burning off the cannabinoids. Oh. So any recipe that I'm doing with an oil, I try to make sure that the recipe is low heat. So for instance, like with the patties, that's why I did a chutney, so that the chutney is done on a low heat.
And then it stays in the liquid kind of,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Whereas like if I do something like, I make my own jerk sauce, right? So there is jerk spices in the food tonight. I made my own jerk sauce marinade. Sometimes I infuse that as well. But if you infuse it and you barbecue it, like you're not necessarily going to get the...
no, that makes sense.
You see what I mean? You're not going to get the effects on it. So that's why even for like this dressing that we'll talk about in a second, it also is infused. And so you'll get more effects on that because there's no heat.
It's the secret of the trade right there.
It is.
Secrets in the sauce.
And what is that dressing?
So this dressing, so this is a mango salad dressing.
Mango dressing, yeah.
Infused. And this is infused with honey. So the infused honey that I made, I really quite love the infused honey because you can add it to your tea.
That sounds really tasty, actually,
it is.
infused
and
honey.
You know what, guys? It's so easy to do. Like I have one of those level oil infusion machines, so it makes it easy to infuse stuff and whatever. And I love it for that. But I still do so many things old school, right? And so if you're gonna infuse honey the old school way, you're literally going to just decarb your cannabis, and to do that you got to pop it in your oven to bake it, add heat to it so that you can change it from having that THCA to having THC, which gives you the euphoric effects and makes you feel high, right? So you got to like decarb it first, and then basically you just put your honey into a slow cooker, create a little satchel with that decarbed cannabis, and put it in like
and it just kind of
you just pop that little satchel into your slow cooker.
So you don't put the weed actually in. You put it in a
satchel so that it doesn't
become all flaky and the weed gets
especially with a thick consistency as honey. Now you can do it directly when I do like an oil, because then when you do it with an oil, it's easy for you to just run that through a strainer and then not have all particles in there. I recommend when you are decarbing your cannabis not to put it in a grinder to decarb it, to just break it up with your hand or scissors so that they're small but still big pieces.
And it leaves everything in there, all the crystals and everything. I'm old school too. I used to infuse, I didn't really infuse honey, I just smoke a big joint and then go get a big spoonful of honey. Remember those? Or peanut butter, and just eat it infused. That's maybe how it started, right?
That's probably how it started.
Some stoner guy just smoked. He's like, we should put this in the honey.
Hey?
Revolutionary.
Another thing I will say is that for some people, for myself particularly, is that if I have mango and consume cannabis, smoke a joint, whatever, my experience is more elevated. And I think it has to do with the terpenes, the myrcene. It kind of just activates it for some people.
Mango is one of those things.
Yeah. I know that people will be like, there's no scientific evidence. I'm like, I know, but cannabis was like prohibited. Like, who was studying it? You know what I mean? So like clearly there wasn't like... Whatever. Just because there's not scientific evidence doesn't mean it's not true.
Yet.
That's all I'm going to say. Right.
Whoever made the mango must have been baked. They put over 3/4 of it in a pit.
Right?
Like, I know. What screw up? Oh, dude, just throw it in. It doesn't matter, man. This giant pit inside of all the meat's gone. Right? It's just horrible.
So it's funny how you said someone created it.
Yeah, someone created it.
Oh, yeah, we're going to go there. We're going to go over there. Do you want to pop the top on
sure.
one of these things?
Top. So this is your lovely strawberry spinach
pretty.
salad.
Yes.
I know, I love a pretty salad.
Yeah,
I'm all about a pretty salad.
Me too.
So that you've got your mango in there as well, and then you've got your mango in your dressing.
Oh, that sounds like a really healthy salad.
Oh, Mike is so happy right now. Mike is all vegan.
And hearty, right?
I'm all about that. Because you know what? I had a food business before, but even though it was like a wing business, I had a huge vegetarian following. Why? Because rice and peas, vegetarian patties, salads, they want the flavors.
Yeah, that's true. And they like the smokiness that comes from the meat, right? They're not eating
meat,
but I'm eating the smoke.
That's
right.
right?
And still
guilt-free.
peas.
Absolutely.
And what is this beautiful jar of?
Hey, do they ever make
here?
salad with the marijuana leaves?
Yes. Okay. So let me tell you, friends, if you grow, last year I grew for the second time, but really the first time, because the first time I grew, I killed the clones, but that's because I just didn't know how sensitive she is.
Yeah, you're not a green thumb.
No, it's not even that. Because I was given 4 clones 2 years ago. I went away on a business trip, and I thought that I could just water it like the other plants in my house.
Yeah.
I came back and they were dry as can be done. They were like twigs, right? And so basically, the second time around that I tried to grow, I had a male. And then when I found out that I had a male, everybody's, you gotta kill it, you're gonna like ruin the neighborhood. So I'm like,
whoa. Holy.
like,
Toxic
the
males.
pollen, because it will like if people are growing in your neighborhood and you
I see what
feed
you're
your
saying.
male, it will ruin your female plants.
Really?
That pollen.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I didn't even know
Serious.
that.
Oh my goodness, you gotta kill it the minute you see
So you
it.
eat it.
So I froze the leaves.
Oh,
And then so I have
cryogenically
fan
frozen.
leaves that I have put into smoothies. Now,
Smart.
a fan leaf won't get you high,
Yeah.
but cannabis has nutrients even at
It's
its
still the
exactly
CBD stuff or whatever.
and vitamins and fiber and all of the things.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, I had posted that smoothie on Instagram, and she was like, "Hey, have you ever made salads with the fan leaves?" And I was like, next time I will.
Dude, love stoned people. Yo, have you ever made a salad with the stems? Like, no. I'm gonna
Dude,
do
stoners
it.
are innovative.
Right?
I'm
Very
totally
innovative.
gonna do it next
Well,
time.
Especially when it comes to
fun-
food.
What's the
Right?
funny thing? Because when a stoner tells you, "Hey, you gotta do this," you're like, "Yes, I so gotta."
When
do
it's food
that."
related, I always trust the
It's
stoner
food.
because you know it's gonna
Always.
taste good.
So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna. I haven't grown this year yet. I had some autoflower seeds that didn't do the thing, and that's fine. I will try again.
So do people cook, or do you cook with the actual bud? Put the bud in and like marinate it or something? And,
No,
is there anything that can happen?
You would always need to decarb it
You
to
have to
get the
decarb it.
activation of it. Now, you can still cook with cannabis in all of its forms. It's just you're not going to necessarily get high from it. You're just going to get the other benefits.
Just gonna
that
get the
cannabis.
taste.
And,
So
and
if-
still the benefits.
if-
Like, I mean, it's got like vitamins and fiber and all that kind of stuff. Like there's other nutrients that the plant has, and it's like stationary, like level kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
just that's not what people are necessarily looking for when they want to eat it. They're looking for that
Yeah.
body high
They
or
are.
whatever, right?
So if there's a creative stoner out there that just takes his bud and chops it up and puts it on top of his food, that's not really gonna get
it's
it.
not going to do as much as you think. It's like even if you wanted to sprinkle it on your pizza and use
Mm-hmm.
it like as a basil or oregano type
Yeah.
of thing, I would still decarb it
Yeah.
and then grate it over.
That's kind of douchey to me, though. Hey, like, oh, just hold on, guys. Let's do Salt Bay. Just Salt Bay with the weed.
Chronic Bay.
Right on your. Right on your. I'm Weed Bay.
You can
Just
put it in
fucking
a
weed.
salt and pepper shaker, people.
Right?
You don't have to get that extra.
you
you
can.
can, you know,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, right? My sativa, my indica, my hybrid.
Oh, you know
spice.
there's some of those.
Trust me,
You know there's some of
people
those.
make sugar. I have not
I
even
bet.
gotten to that level yet.
Oh, I bet. There has to come a level where you have to stop, because then you just
Oh well, you'll never.
gotta
You'll
always
never
go
stop.
next level, right?
Absolutely.
Like shaping steak and weed and like fry, like eating it like it's a steak. It's weed. All right, let's
So
keep going.
this is the bruschetta. So basically, this is just your regular tomato, peppers. I mean onions. Sorry, garlic, that type of thing. But I did an infused oil with this. So this one was actually an oil that was a legal product.
Nice.
So I like to
Government approved,
deal with
government
all of the markets, you know.
Awesome. That's the best.
You know what I mean? So I'm still
bright.
thankful that we're legal in this country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you seek out products? Like, do you see stuff online and stuff and go, oh, phew, I gotta go and like, are you an art? Are you a connoisseur?
I am.
For artisan products.
I don't seek out it, but I know enough people online that post things that
Yeah.
strike my fancy,
Yeah.
type of thing. So I kind of use my feeds as my. You know, because when people post like this, I'm like, oh my god!
Yeah.
Like even for instance, I mean, some of those beverages,
They're crazy.
they are crazy. They're not the greatest, but you know what I'm okay with? I'm okay with that Malo 5,
I've
which
heard of
is
that one.
the beer like
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Let me tell you, living in Calgary for 13 years, I drank a lot of beer back in those days, right? And this actually tastes like a beer. It tastes like a light beer.
I've never seen it around.
Oh yeah, like you can get it with 5. It's usually balanced, so it'll be 5 milligrams of CBD, 5 milligrams of THC.
Yeah.
So it's like a balanced type of thing. But it's one of those things that's really cool. Like if I'm going to a gathering, you know what I mean, and I want to drink something, but I don't want to drink alcohol.
Yeah.
You can bring one of those, and it's a cool little.
Oh, dude, that's so the new. Like back in the 80s. They would have people who would show up with near beer.
Oh, I
remember?
Near beer.
The guy show up, he's got his near beer, right? Start sipping near beer all day. I'm like, what the hell would you be sipping that for, right? I always
People
thought
drink beer for the taste?
I know.
You drink beer for the taste?
Yeah, he's right? He's got near beer, and I was like, that's just so bizarre. But now that guy is the weed beer guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Shows up with this weed beer. You drink one beer, you're just lying on the floor, right? That's usually what happens. You're like, I can drink your weed beer. Shotgun, you're toast, you're done. It's over.
They're actually good. I will say, it's because that CBD's in there.
Yeah.
So it's really not, for me, it's really nothing. But it's
for the average person, it will floor them.
Yeah,
I think some of that might be proxy too, because if there's no psychoactive in there and you get stoned, I think you're getting stoned because you want to just feel something.
Well, I think it's more of some people don't smoke a lot of weed and are susceptible to smoke.
And that's why, to be honest with you, now that I've been in the industry for a bit and whatever, I totally get why the THC limit is small, right? Low, because there are people who haven't experienced.
Oh yeah,
that looks nice.
So that is the jerk cauliflower, oven baked,
smells
cauliflower
beautiful.
bites.
Very nice.
And that is not infused, kind of thing. So
I
kind of let people have options, Because sometimes you want to tap out. The bread though has a little bit brushed of a light infused coconut and garlic.
Oh, nice.
And then that's what you put your nice little bruschetta.
Wow, crazy.
Amazing stuff.
On that. And then lastly, you've got some rice and peas in that other container there.
Right.
Yeah. And that's made with coconut
This is
milk.
amazing.
Ooh, make you so happy.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that's it. And so, you've got a nice balance. You can beef it up with these two options. And of course, your beverage has the most. So.
Welcome everybody to the High Phrase podcast. Already in
Session.
We're in session tonight. Now we have I'm going to call you a weed cooking expert.
Okay.
All right,
like that.
is that okay?
Yeah,
what
okay,
have you been? Have you been? What would you call
I've
your
been going
system?
with a canna chef and educator.
A canna chef. Oh, dude, that's so much better. Canna chef.
Yeah.
Necole Hines, right?
Necole Hines.
Hines, like
yeah,
that,
like Duncan Hines.
Like Duncan Hines.
Yeah, because it's like Heinz
Interesting.
ketchup, but I spell it like Duncan.
Duncan Hines,
Yeah,
good. That's
yeah.
a good. That's a lot
I always
better.
used to say that was my legacy when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's Heinz ketchup. I'm like, no, it's actually Duncan Hines. I do the cakes.
That's so funny.
But anyhow.
So Necole comes to us from Toronto.
Originally, yes.
Right.
Originally from Toronto. A lot of time spent in Calgary, and I moved actually to Vancouver from Calgary.
Real Canadian.
Yeah.
You're really
you know.
you're really
You know,
Canadian.
I even lived in Ottawa too for a year.
Did
and
you?
Hamilton and Burlington.
Lucky you got out of Ottawa, man.
I know.
Holy smokes.
I know.
If you ain't ice skating, you got nothing going on in Ottawa.
Right. That's true.
I feel like I'm so
Along the canal.
not included in this conversation because I don't know any of those parts of Canada.
Oh,
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, okay.
Grew up in BC, lived in BC my whole life.
You know, I
Didn't
wouldn't
really
have
go
left
very
if I
else.
lived up here. I will tell you that.
For sure.
Trust and believe.
Yeah, you
I'm
fan.
very happy to be in these BC streets. I will say that.
Yeah.
The weather is kind
yes, it is.
it's been
and
beautiful.
consistent, rain or not.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot better.
Yeah.
Do you want to mix?
Sure, I'll try a little bit. And then we, so today is the honorary 420. This is our first 420 on the High Phrase podcast.
And it
Oh
landed
my
on
God.
420.
It landed on 420.
Yeah.
That's just a sign of all the weed we will smoke from now on is going to be amazing on the show. This is just a beautiful
Absolutely.
sign. And today is obviously the birth of the baby indica. the very first day of when weed was found. It's a glorious story that I thought maybe we'd open up with and just share with the people in case the kids didn't know this. These kids just go out there doing dabs and, smoking shatter and, drinking marijuana. And
These kids these days.
these kids, you know what I mean?
Mike.
They're starting so late at 12, 13 years old. And, they don't know the history of the marijuana. I'm going to just share it with them because I think it's important.
Please do.
So about 2,000 years ago, there was this plant. It was a sativa plant and an indica plant. And they were standing side by side in a field. And there was not weed invented because neither one could really grow the marijuana. They didn't really know what they had to do. And then all of a sudden, by some miracle, a baby high-red bud was born.
Just from the mingling.
In a trough.
Just the co-mingling.
It was born in a trough.
Baby Jesus.
And these stoners came from all around.
Far and wide.
From far and wide to see the little baby hybrid bud.
Mike's got some theories.
I love a hybrid, though. I will say that.
My favorite.
Is that your go-to if you're going to choose
Well, it's a daytime.
Mm-hmm.
And I make my own hybrids.
Oh,
just in
nice.
case. You just mix your sativa and your indica and that's a hybrid.
So you literally just take the sativa indica, roll it into 1J. Huh.
Absolutely.
Never would have crossed my mind.
I worked in
Simple.
I worked in a dispensary, so you learn all of the things,
Okay, so this is kind of a touchy place when we talk about the dispensaries and the legalization and the gray market and the what's considered legalized.
That is really good.
Right?
Nice.
That's amazing. The ginger.
It's for real,
The
right?
ginger comes and sorry to interrupt you.
No,
The
it's okay.
ginger comes in and surrounds your tongue, the edge of your tongue. It goes to the exterior, right? Because it knows that's where all the tasty taste buds are.
Yeah.
And then it goes and sends paratroopers down. Your
Oh
throat,
my God! Look
Right.
at you bringing it.
right? It goes but in the middle is where the juice and all the weed and everything kind of collects. Because they're battling the outside forces of trying to get in there. And then as soon as the ginger forces kind of go down your throat, then the rest of the flavor
yes.
comes over. And then you leave with this amazing weed flavor.
Yes.
Dude, you got a
But it
sophisticated
works.
palate.
It does.
I'm telling you.
It is amazing.
You're very sophisticated in your
I
in your
was
tastes.
I was like, oh my goodness, thank God this is on camera. Like
I know,
shit.
right?
Like
This is really good.
Nice.
awesome.
So yeah, with this whole their idea of legalization, I worked at a dispensary for a little bit, and we were talking about the quality of the weed there. And is it for real? If it's grown in BC before it can be sold, it's got to go back to Ottawa, and then come back to BC.
I think so. I think it has to go through their channels and their systems and all of the things and blah, blah, blah. Like, I personally believe that, like, just like in Ontario, it kind of does that too, because,
Right.
like, for BC, like, they're also, like the distributor, but then they're also, like, they're, like...
The consumers of it as well.
Yeah. Like, it's just like, what? Like, I don't even understand that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem.
Yeah, because I find, from the time that it's grown, packaged, sold, and consumed, there's, in some cases, the 3 to 4 month process before the cannabis actually gets used.
Yeah.
Which is outrageous to think.
Yeah.
I feel like, the way that they've wasted the opportunity to really take advantage of this in a way that tax dollars could be used correctly. And I have a 13-year-old in the school system, and the teachers are buying their own school supplies. Mm-hmm. And it's shocking to me that nobody within this government that we have could have thought to themselves, hey, we can tax this cannabis and fund schools for the next 20 years.
Oh, they thought of it.
And said, what? Is this not worth it?
Well, it's taxed enough, right? But
Yeah.
it's just, it goes not into...
It's just misappropriated.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
misappropriated, right?
Yeah.
Like, even when it became legal, like, there was no social equity program
At all.
created. And now there's a lot of work being behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
and that will happen. But I'm just saying, like, at the time,
Mm-hmm.
like, this was legal from October, 17th, 18th, 2018, right? Like, you would think by then that they would have looked at other legal states, even, right? That even if the social equity program wasn't great, that California had one. You know it existed, right? And that's like a lot of reasons why some of the states are okay with this booming industry is because those tax dollars have been fueled back into the city, right?
Yeah, and
or the state or whatever.
Yeah, and our problem with like Canada and BC is that soccer moms run this country, and it right.
Okay.
Well,
So, you know what I mean? I'm still new, I feel. So, I mean.
No, but
yeah.
what
So
I
you were
mean by
essentially
that is
saying
that-
like white middle-aged women.
Well, I'm just saying that forever, like Canada's always late to the party. You know, United States was way ahead of us, and they should have been way behind us. But we wait because we bow to pressure. We're too polite, and our politicians don't think of them. They only think of their votes. They don't think of what they really need to do, right? And it's the soccer moms. Like you look at vaping. Vaping is because all these moms are upset that kids are vaping, right? And that's why they're canceling vape. Right. Yeah. And it's because we give too much power to the wrong people. Yeah. We don't listen to the people. Right. Yeah. And now they're starting to listen.
Yeah. I feel like things will, like, it's shifting, but there's still so much stigma.
Yeah, and I feel like the only reason it's shifting is because public opinion is just loud.
Yeah.
And there's so many, I mean, we have a lot of local celebrities that are involved in the cannabis trade. You know, Seth Rogen's doing his thing. Yeah. And then, you know, I think the louder that celebrities get, the public pressure kind of forces it over. But I mean, I'm just thinking as a grown-up, as an adult, you watch TV shows, alcohol served all the time. It's not even a big deal. No one even thinks. And then up until this point, I don't think I've ever seen a show, not a movie, but an actual show, like a TV show or whatever, that's normalized someone going out for smoking a joint. And everybody does.
Yeah.
So there's this new Jamie Foxx show that just came on Netflix.
Okay.
Something about Don't Embarrass Me Dad or something like that. And it's kind of like Jamie Foxx's life story, but in a little more sensationalized. And David Alan Grier is in it. And he smokes cannabis in the show.
Wow.
First time I've ever seen it where he's sitting in the corner and he's smoking a joint. And it's the first time I've seen it kind of normal-ish on TV.
Without it being a cannabis show.
Exactly.
Without it being that's pretty sweet.
It's horrible that it's a brother that's doing it.
That's fair.
It's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It sucks that that's just another, you know, like, fuck you. Like, okay, now black people are smoking on TV. You know what I mean? Like, I always think of the conspiracy that comes behind shit like that.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? And like, let's just perpetuate this stereotype because we have to justify every black person that's in prison still. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that comes into it when it's the United States.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we always have to be careful of that shit. You know, it should be, quite honestly, like, they should be teaching kids in school about drugs. That's the only way to do it. Just teach them and like remember when you were a kid, you had the sex ed person that would come in? Remember? And they'd come in and you could tell. Now I know as an adult, that was hell on earth for that person.
Dude, they start in grade 1 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it starts with consent, which is great.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah.
But they got to teach about weed too. Like, it's time.
Well, I mean, I shouldn't say we, but the product itself has been destroyed so much. Even the use of the word is incorrect, right? Like, people started using marijuana, and then when you look at the roots of why it's called marijuana, it was birthed in racist roots.
Absolutely.
Just to continuously criminalize the use of it. Yeah. So if we can't even get the word right, we're going to completely fail at legalization.
Yeah.
And it's kind of proof in the pudding, right? And I mean, for adults that want to use cannabis, not be looked at as stoners, not be looked at as degenerates or whatever the term applies to cannabis users. Yeah. Even as a grown-up now, leaving a party to smoke a J feels like, I'm doing something wrong.
It's the smoking, though. I think that because
I
cook with cannabis. I'm a cannabis chef, but my favorite way to consume is smoking, and I think it has to do with the fact that I was a cigarette smoker before, and I like the oral, like, and I find that, like, also, like, it helps me be creative. Like, I'm also a medical patient. I use it for back pain, but so you end up getting, like, an instant sort of reprieve as opposed to, like, having an edible, which is going to take a little bit longer, right? So I personally love that, but I understand that a lot of people don't want to associate themselves with smoking. And that's one of the reasons why, like, I'm trying to educate people on, like, normalize adult cannabis use by showing that there are so many other ways that you can consume cannabis. And there's you can only consume alcohol in a certain way, but with cannabis, like, I can create a topical with that oil that I made. We're having beverages, you know what I mean? You can have, like, food, you can have, like, pastries, you can have, like, just so many different things. and smoke.
Yeah.
And dab. And, you know, like, that's pretty versatile.
so
She's
true.
a queen. She's a queen.
100%.
You know what's weird though, but like if you do hard drugs, you know, powders and such, in public, you feel like a douchebag, right? If you drink, you're walking down the sidewalk and you're drinking, you feel weird because people are looking at you, oh, you're walking and drinking a beer in public, but you feel like a gangster when you're smoking a joint.
Oh my God, can I tell you? Yes.
Right? You feel like, fuck the world, I'm smoking weed, I feel so good, nothing matters.
Can I tell you a story about
please.
that?
It's all about stories.
The 3 days that it snowed in Vancouver. Okay, so that happened this past.
The whole world shut down.
You mean the last 10 years?
That's terrible.
I walk in. I do walking sesh meditations, right? Like that's kind of I do a lot of smoking outside of the home, and so those 3 days that it snowed, I'm out there walking, smoking my joint, whatever, and this guy in a picture, he drives by me, and then he rolls back, and he's like, I just gotta say, that looks so badass.
Yeah,
He's
right?
like, it's snowing and you're smoking
Yes.
a J. And I was like, I know, right?
So badass.
Do you remember your first experience with cannabis?
Absolutely not.
Oh, wow.
No, okay, I will tell you this. I always dated people who smoked. I never rolled a joint until I was like 40 or 41. I never bought cannabis until I was like, I always either had friends or dated people who were what we called chronic back in the day. So I was, and they would just roll joints for me. I would be sent home with joints.
Yeah.
I like never. So I was like, I was living the life.
Do you remember your first experience with cannabis?
I remember my first experience with cannabis because it was at school.
Oh,
And
shit.
I was in grade 7 or 8. I would think I was
Oh,
in
I
middle
wasn't that
school,
young.
so
I
I
was
was in
in high
8.
school.
And I smoked a joint for the first time at recess with
What recess?
or
Oh, not
Right?
even like right after school.
no,
Okay.
it was at recess.
Oh my God.
And and back then in those days, I was a skater boy.
It's so weird.
And
It's so weird.
And the heavy metal guys, like the headbangers, who beat up everybody in the school,
Yeah.
were like, hey, whatever they called me, I don't remember. You want to smoke a joint? And I'm like, okay, yeah, trying to be cool, right? Because I was growing a little bit, so I think they were like, okay, we're not gonna fuck with this guy anymore. We're gonna smoke some weed with him,
Yeah,
get him on our
yeah.
side. And I grew my hair after that. That was really funny too. And I smoked the joint. I went back to class. I got so much
even
trouble, dude.
Oh, so someone find out?
The teachers were like, "You're baked." And I'm like, "No, I'm
okay.
not." Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was, and then I learned my biggest lesson after that.
Visine.
No, don't go back to class after you smoke weed.
Well, clearly, that's why I was just like recess. I'm like, oh
Like,
my
fuck that.
goodness.
Don't go to class.
No, but I was in high school. I just don't remember the exact experience. But I was always around people who, and even like coming from Jamaican background and all of that, and growing up in Toronto, I would say that I've smoked more with males than females until I moved to Vancouver.
Oh wow,
And then in Vancouver,
interesting.
all the ladies.
Yeah.
Oh,
for
my God.
sure.
And in my age range,
Yes.
stop it.
Yeah.
Like they are,
It's crazy.
Sounds
oh my God.
fantastic.
I've been to so many events where it's just like women in their 40s,
Yeah.
like 30s, 20s, whatever, just all dabbing, smoking, vaping, all
amazing.
of
You know what I
things.
love about some of the women here in Vancouver, though? They're very amateur weed smokers. And I would go to some, because I've only smoked with girls.
Oh,
in my whole life. These
look
are like
at
some of my
that.
only.
That's so funny.
Yeah, these are
That's
some
so-
of my only guy friends. Like
Oh,
I don't have
wow.
a guy friend. I'm
Yeah.
mainly girlfriends.
Yeah.
And dude, they'll be like, "Oh, I got this really good weed, right?" And then you're like, "Oh, okay. Can you roll me a joint?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." Whoa, whoa, whoa. They're like, whoa, whoa. "Is that for 10 people?" It's like, no, I'm just rolling a joint. It's a normal
I
joint,
know, king size.
right? And then you smoke it, and it's just like, what is this? What dastardly person gave you this weed to smoke?
Yeah.
Try some of this, and right? I'm like the pusher, right?
Yeah.
And then you hook them.
Well, for the most
good
part, you don't get your weed from a dispensary.
No, hell no. Is that illegal?
Pretty clear. Pretty clear. Not at all. Not at all. The product is decriminalized, so it's not
Yeah,
an illegal product to buy.
Yeah, I think it's important to support local,
Yeah.
I love your ways.
right?
That's
Support
right.
local.
Yeah, I
always.
don't use dispensary either. I have
No.
a local guy that grows.
I won't smoke if I don't have it. A
interesting.
friend of mine buys it for her kid
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and she goes to the dispensary, and she pays $80 an eighth.
Stop. That's highway
Oh,
robbery.
quarter.
Even
quarter.
still, that's like
Yeah.
crazy. Like I support all the markets. I don't.
ridiculous.
I'm a medical patient as well. So I had this crazy car accident 6 years next month. But I so I used cannabis for pain management. And back in Calgary, I was able to get. They called it a recommendation, but they had like these cannabis clinics called Natural Health Services, and you could go and see a doctor, and then they would just give you a prescription. Because my family doctor was not interested at the time, so I did that route, and then so I get it in the mail. It just comes to my door. It's really sweet. Like it's coming tomorrow morning. I can follow the shipment and
That's
shit.
awesome,
Like
actually.
I love it. Like
That's actually awesome.
I love it. Like I'm not even. And then I put it on my taxes.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, see,
Absolutely.
this is
I got
how
money
it
back.
should be.
I'm just telling you guys, like, I know that dispensaries and what doctors will do because they want to get rid of the medical, and I refuse. I will fight for them not to do that. Because
What do you mean you want to get rid of the medical?
They want to get rid of the medical program. There's been talk about that because there's the rec market, and they just basically say, but you know, with just the rec market, without medical, then there's not that type of research behind what it really can do for certain, you know, illnesses and et cetera, right? Like, so I want it. And also, the government will not give you money back for your rec purchases, but they will for your medical.
It's so stupid. These doctors just want to push people to meds.
Oh, that's it. And cannabis is not for everybody. I'm a huge, I am faded living through and through, right? Like I live a faded life, but I'm very aware that it's not for everyone. It's just you should allow people to have the opportunity.
Totally.
Because it does help so many people, right? Like that's the beauty of it, right? But like, there's, pharmaceutical.
Well, I mean, it's a hypocrisy of what they consider this free market. It's not a free market. It's a free market dictated by what they allow to be within the market. And it's kind of silly because, I mean, I've personally, I grew up in a household that was like, any kind of drug was forbidden. We grew up in a very like strict Muslim household. And I can tell you the very first time that I tried cannabis, all of that changed. My perception of religion changed, perception of people changed. It all just completely changed.
Your third eye.
It really did. It really did. And I felt like I wasted like 20 years of my life up until that point because I believed in these fairy tales and stuff. It just made me feel like I was like a fool this whole time, right?
Yeah.
But most of the people that I know within the culture would never come close to cannabis at all.
Like Muslim culture, you mean?
Period. Would not come close.
Until
They come to
all of the
Vancouver.
other things they've tried, let's say they have an ailment, doesn't work.
Well, and
that's usually when people will come. To
and it's funny how you said that because over the years I've had this conversation with my parents and they're very close-minded about it, and over the years I've kind of broke them down a little bit and changed some of their thinking. And it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I have a family member in San Francisco that brought over like a cream, a topical, not telling my mom it was a THC and CBD infused cream. And my mom's older. She gets constant shoulder pains and stuff. She's like, oh, my niece gave me this cream and I want to try it. And she tried, like, oh, they work so amazing. So I come over to the house. I'm like, let me see the cream. And I'm looking at it and THC. So like, oh my God.
Look at you.
Mom, you're using cannabis. She's like, what?
Skin stoner.
And then she told me, she's like, I'm doing pot. I'm like, no, you're not. Relax. It's just a topical cream. But that was kind of her almost like, wow, this is not a drug.
Yeah.
So you smoke this cream? I don't understand.
I'm doing pot. No, you're not doing pot.
I'm on the pod.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean, even my dad was telling me about his first experience with pot back in Fiji, and from what I've been told, their weed is garbage, but it grows everywhere because it's so freaking hot.
Seeds in it.
Yeah, it's all gross. And we tried it once, and he told me he had this horrible experience, and ghosts were chasing him and stuff. I'm like, what?
Holy crap.
Cannabis?
That's some old school, like,
What the hell
1800s, like 19th century weed experience.
Because that shouldn't happen.
My great grandfather's ghost was chasing me.
It shouldn't have. But then, I mean, this is what I'm learning. Like I learn every day. Like I'm constantly learning about this plant. And what I have learned is that literally we all have something that's called an endocannabinoid system.
Yep.
Like we're all
Pre-installed.
born with it, right? So we were like programmed to work with cannabis.
Yeah.
Which also though means that because we have our own, it affects us all differently. And that's why I do say it's not for everyone, and that if it's your first time, you shouldn't be starting with the highest THC level, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to introduce it
Yeah.
to yourself and like go low, start slow type of thing,
It's like kissing. Right?
too,
Like
yes.
you don't go straight, tongue thrashing. You
start
peck on the lips and you're like, okay, warm up.
Absolutely.
Right? That's my first kiss.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's funny because the evolution of humans show traces of a lot of psychedelic drugs and like cannabinoids and stuff like that you were talking about. And it shows that it's in our DNA strains.
Yeah.
Because, I think our early ancestors just consumed so much of it that as we evolved, it evolved with us. It just
Either way, yeah.
Right?
I never even thought of how it came to be, but we have it. So,
Yeah.
and
So
that's why, like, with the medical, like, if we scrap the medical, we don't get to learn about that.
Just
'Cause
robbery.
doctors need to learn about that so
Yeah,
that
100%.
they can also give other alternatives to their patients.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be, and I'm not knocking pharmaceuticals because for some things it does
They have a
work
place,
better.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't think you have to be the pusher of just that route
Yeah.
for every single thing.
Yeah.
So you buy into the stoned ape theory?
Well, I just believe in one thing, just like Necole said, like we have it in us. So
We're wired,
you
yeah.
think of a recipe for your favorite dish that has multiple recipes to it or multiple ingredients, and you leave out two important ingredients.
yeah.
It's going to taste inevitably different than the one that you put the ingredients in.
Yeah.
So if you're telling us not to consume these items and not to use mushrooms for psychiatric treatment and not to use weed to calm down and to just kind of, be at peace with the world and with yourself, you're taking ingredients from us. You
Yeah.
really are. And I think that's what they saw. Like they saw that, okay, they didn't know this until recently. Like this now becomes common knowledge, but it took many moons for people scientists to figure that out.
Yeah.
Right. But now that they know this, that this is really what it inevitably gives people good lives, that's why it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
Right. Because they know now it's like, dude, we could literally, the elitists could really, it's true. It's an elitist thing. It isn't a poor people thing. Now elitists have a way that they can now live longer and happier.
Yeah.
Right? Because now they understand the body more. This information probably got leaked. You know what I mean? There's probably elitists been eating weed for ever. We just weren't in that club. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We know our ancestors were playing with cannabis for sure,
they were.
for sure,
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Totally, 110%.
Is the weed better now, do you think, than it used to be? Or is it better back when we were growing up?
It's hard to, when I moved here before legalization, I would say it's better now. Because I remember going back and forth to Calgary, and I remember like bringing just, weed from here and people just saying like, just bring me something good. I'm like, no, but what do you want? And then they're like, just something really good. I'm like, no, but like, do you want terpenes? Like, what are you looking for? What's like, like I could give you
options.
like a cocktail of things, like, and so based on like, especially working in a dispensary those days, and there was like 50 cultivars on the board and stuff like that. Like, I feel like it's better now just because I have more options, right? And I think that you just are really accepting of whatever you were given back then because it did work. But now that we can like, only smoke something that is like high in like limonene, which is like, all your citrusy type of things, right? Like that works for you. Somebody else could be like, oh, I like spicy, caryophyllene. Like I'll just only do that. Like when could you do that before?
Yeah, it's so
right?
crazy.
So I feel like now it's
The
a little
the
bit
variety.
better. And if you can grow your own, I think that you have the ability to craft really amazing craft bud because you can just really have it organic and not any kind of crap in it.
Why was Thai stick so big back in the day and then it just disappeared? It did the hydroponic weed just take over?
I don't know.
Right?
I
Thai
know,
sticks? You
I
remember
do.
Thai stick? I just thought I'd
do.
throw that out there
Yeah,
just to show how old
it's
the fuck
420,
I am.
Jesus.
Sorry,
Bring it back.
I remember Thai stick. They used to smoke it. Did you ever smoke Thai stick?
I've never
Have
heard
you
of it
ever tried
before.
it? Thai stick? Yeah. It's a stick.
Yeah.
It's like wood, and you'd light it,
Yes.
and you would smoke it through it. You don't roll it in a paper or anything. It was like a stick of
Yeah.
wood.
Yeah.
Yes, people back in the 80s would be smoking it. I remember my dad would be smoking Thai stick. I'm like, he's smoking a branch. I'm like, what the fuck is
Thai stick.
that? Yeah.
Thai stick. Yeah. Look it up.
Huh.
Yeah. It was a fad. It was a huge weed smoking fad.
That's so weird.
And I'm like, I think that's because they didn't know how to grow it back then.
Yeah, I don't even know.
We had to import weed from other countries back then.
And
Yeah.
now we're doing it ourselves.
And now we're
Grow
doing
your
it.
own if you
Yeah.
can, guys. We're allowed.
Support local.
So what are the rules for growing your own as far as how much you can grow for yourself?
You can grow 4, I believe.
4
and
pounds?
I have 4 plants. I have a medical
4 pounds or 4 plants?
4 plants.
4 pounds.
I have a medical. You can get a medical grow license, so I can actually grow 25,
Oh, nice.
19 indoor. And
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Awesome. Good for you.
yeah,
That's
so
good.
that's what I'm saying. Medical, don't get rid of it.
No, it's good. And so I guess you're kind of a great example for someone that really embraced the
Oh yeah, all of it.
the legal part of it, and you saw it, and you were an early adapter to it.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I wasn't in the game for back in the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I found that when I moved here, it was before legalization, and there was a lot of like us against them, like the culture and
Mm-hmm. Big
then the
time.
industry, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I totally get it. Like, I'm not even whatever. But then now, over time, like, when you interact with like other countries and you start to see like what's going on, there's trouble in Ireland and what's going on in like New Zealand just like had a referendum where they like denied, you know what I mean, and all this shit,
Silly.
and you're just like, we're lucky,
Yeah.
you know. Like I think in the Philippines you can still lose your life for that.
Yeah, and people
well, you
have been.
can.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
People
So
have been.
like and here I am walking in the snow like a badass,
Yeah.
smoking my joint. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of like I'm okay with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it a labor intensive process to grow your own?
Yes, and it is okay. So I am brand spanking new,
Mm-hmm.
and I am, like I said, I tried last year and I grew 7 plants. 1 was a male, and then 2 died, and then I had like 4. But so they grew really beautifully. But then I moved in between the grow,
Oh, tough.
and cannabis plants are very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a female, like it's very sensitive, and the better. That it will flourish
Mm-hmm.
is the more attention you give it.
So I've heard
Singing
growers.
to it, talking to
Yeah.
it, all those kind of things. It's just different than
It's
a
true.
different plant. Like
Yeah.
your other plants in
Music
your
and-
house, you can just like. They also benefit from the love too.
Sure,
Don't
sure.
get it twisted. But they can also be like left alone like a cat, right?
Mhm,
Like whereas like a cannabis plant is like a dog.
So yeah, I've heard people say this,
Interesting.
and you deliberately have to provide attention.
Yeah.
Like you're making
Oh,
it
yeah.
your intention to be
Yeah.
attentive to the
Yeah,
plant.
Absolutely. And
Wow.
the more, and I always recommend that if you are have any issues with the plant and whatever the case may be, like just learn to grow one. Don't be afraid of it's a plant. Gift
just a
it.
plant.
Like for goodness sake, gift
Pour
it
some
to
shit
somebody
on
else
it,
when
yeah.
it's like done. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to like do anything with it,
Yeah.
but just even like the people who are like in these large LPs and whatever, like a lot of them don't even like CEOs, all those people like C-suites, whatever, like they don't even consume.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And it's
Yeah.
like, at least grow it though. Because if you understand how finicky it was, you wouldn't have created your damn facilities
Yes.
and thought that it could have produced the way
For
it could have
constant
produced
turnover, yeah.
if you really realize that it's not like a tomato plant.
Yeah.
And it's
Wow.
not like, like just learn to grow one.
Are
So
the-
I'm still learning.
Are these giant facilities killing the industry?
You know what? I just had somebody reach out to me about how like it is not great for the environment. Like even the water usage.
Oh, it's huge.
Must be
That
a waste.
it's a waste of water. Like I started doing some research in like some facilities, not in Canada. I don't know if there are any in Canada. I didn't look that far, but I was just looking like what do facilities do to try to consume the water usage, and some have created like sort of like a almost like a humidifier kind of process, so that the water kind of gets
Reusing it,
Always in the air.
evaporating
Yeah,
and-
yeah.
Oh, scary.
Yeah. And
That's
then you
still
also have to
scary.
think too, like I've been trying to be like, oh, I want to try everything. Like I want to try stuff from Ontario, whatever. And I will, but then you also think of like the carbon footprint of where you
Yeah.
order from.
Yes.
Right? And
Yeah.
so I've been trying to order just from BC because I feel like at least it's not going
Sure.
so
Yeah.
far to come to me as opposed to like across Canada and stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
So ideally, community grows would be what we would want to see.
yeah, and or craft growers that are like much more smaller.
Yeah.
I believe that when they rolled out legalization, what they should have done is like had a fast track program, so like all the people from the illicit market who were growers could become micro growers,
For sure.
which is what they're doing now. But I feel like they should have done that from the get go. And the LPs with the money could come up with the innovative products like nanotechnology
Right.
and all the beverages and the capsules and suppositories, blah blah blah. But they were actually getting the product from those micro grows. That's how I thought that it should have.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, I'm not.
But
running,
it's
so-
true though,
Sure.
because like what they didn't think about was the price fluctuation and like the surplus of weed
Yeah.
and like, you know, how if all of a
And if
sudden
it's crappy,
and if it's crappy, how
and
much
that we don't want to buy it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. Like they didn't think of all these little things because they weren't in the drug game before.
No,
right?
and yeah, and they weren't even in the culture game.
No.
This is the problem. Is
Corporate
like even
boardrooms,
at the beginning, like even when I was working in corporate world, like they wanted to disassociate themselves from like terms that was used in the corporate world,
That's
like
crazy.
in the culture, like Mary Jane,
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
instance, right? Like things like 420 and whatever. Like they wanted to distance. No, like who are you targeting then?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like if you
Soccer
can't
moms.
say anything, but you can't even say anything when you're in a
Yeah.
dispensary. You can't even really tell them that like I worked in a dispensary before legalization, so I could say that okay, this helped me sleep, right? And now you can't really like
Yeah.
even talk like that.
No,
so
you
then
can't.
who are you
You
speaking
can't
to?
suggest.
Oh,
No.
because of but you can't really
You can't
prove
say
that it
any-
helped you.
yeah,
'Cause-
so you can't
Right.
you can't
So
really say anything,
stupid.
right? So then I'm like, okay, well if you can't say anything to new people, then you clearly need to talk to the people that have been around.
are already
So
consuming.
Then you should have been coming to
Yes.
talk to us.
That was the disconnect. Create that disconnect, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
what
they
happened.
closed a lot of great gray market stores
Yeah.
when they were doing their whole legalization run. Some great places, some great community places, and burned them all to the ground.
Yeah.
And there were places where people would rely on them to get their their regular edibles and stuff, getting raided all the time. And the idea that now it's a multi-billion-dollar business,
Already.
multi-billion, and there's people still in prison
Yep.
for
Or
selling.
haven't gotten things expunged, or
Yeah, for selling small
or
quantities.
can't get certain jobs because they have that record
Yeah.
in the industry
Yeah.
that these people are making money off of.
Yeah.
What's what's the fix for this? What's the next step from here?
Well, I do know that Health Canada is working with some BIPOC groups that are across Canada to, I think, come create like a social equity program at least
Right.
for the BIPOC community. So I know that that's in the works finally. But yeah, like I mean, we're slow at the way we do things. Like
terrible.
we're
So
not, we're
slow.
slow. I'm sorry, we just
It's so
are.
bad.
We're like slow ass people.
I think
Like,
we're just slow when it comes to being equitable. If they want to make things happen, they'll make things happen.
yeah.
But when it comes to being fair across the board, to everybody involved,
Yeah.
they're slow with indigenous rights, they're slow with
Oh, yeah,
women's rights, they're
absolutely.
slow with everything
Yeah.
that doesn't matter to the.
Yeah, those fit
agenda.
the masses, right?
Yeah.
Right? The elitists is what a lot of it is, right?
And the thing that really drives me crazy is when you see these politicians trying to pander to pot smokers. Oh, I tried it in high school.
Yeah.
Oh,
Didn't inhale, but-
I had a drag. Justin
Yeah.
Trudeau talking about when he tried it. It's like,
When
no
he
one
tried it.
No one cares.
Yeah, I don't care.
Even when someone
give you
says I
cred.
tried it, it's just like, no, unless there's like police record that the first night you tried it, you ran butt naked down the street and
don't
you
wanna hear
never did
about
it
it.
again. Bullshit.
Yeah,
You
I
did
don't
it
hear
many
about it.
times
Exactly.
after.
Yeah, no, because I remember when Bill Clinton came out, I was like, wow,
Yeah,
presidential
remember that?
candidate smoke weed.
Yeah.
I'm sure Bernie Sanders was smoking weed
Oh my
since
God,
day
from
one.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Just for the people. I mean,
No
shit,
doubt
he's
about
been
it.
with it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, remember when Richard Pryor talked about it, about smoking weed? Remember? That was a big deal,
It
man.
was.
Remember that interview he did way back in the day where he was like just out of it and he was smoking weed on the interview?
Is this is pre burning himself
Yeah,
up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
And he
love it
did
pre-burning himself.
right, and he was talking about he was just smoking weed in his interview, and nobody said anything. It was Richard Pryor, right? They were like, "Yeah, that's just so on brand with who
But
he
it
was."
does open you up, and I think that's one of the reasons why. Like, of course, there's the racism behind it, but I also think there's the other side where, like, cannabis smokers they wake up, right? It's
Huge.
like on so many levels, and coming from a city which was heavy on the drinking side of things, alcohol dumbs you down.
Yeah, 100%.
It does. Alcohol does not make you think. And I'll give you another story. So my birthday, a couple years ago, I decided to do an infused brunch. Invited a bunch of people over to my house that are cannabis enthusiasts, all of that, great friends. and I lived on the top floor of a building, not a large building, but 4th floor. And I had some friends on the balcony. I was inside, whatever. And so I had somebody, a friend of mine, come inside and be like, "Hey, do you have like a hanger?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." They come up like, "Hey, do you have like string?" I was like, "Yeah." And then they're like, "Hey, do you have like a safety pin?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem."
Is it MacGyver upstairs?
Honey, my friend had dropped her hat from the 4th floor.
Yeah.
Okay? And then it dropped onto like a landing on like the 2nd level. And they MacGyvered that shit. They used the hanger, the string, the fucking safety thing, whatever, and fished it up. And I was like, you know what? If we were all drinking, there is no way.
Somebody would have jumped.
Oh my God,
to get
everybody would have been arguing about like who can do it better and blah, 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 Ray. Like there would have been no, I'm like, that's what happens with cannabis folks. Like we actually come together. We all thought about like, how could we make this work? And she got her hat back.
I've been to almost every 420 in the past 10 years in BC. And I remember when they would do it at the art gallery, you'd get 15, 20,000 people show up. Everybody's smoking cannabis, no fights.
No.
You could walk through the masses, bump shoulders with people. Everyone's apologetic. Oh, sorry, man. Sorry. Never a fight.
No.
You go to a club with 150 people, everybody drinks and they murder each other.
Facts.
It's a completely different world
Absolutely.
that we live in. And I think now there's some places in Europe that are decriminalizing everything.
Everything, yeah.
Which a whole other conversation altogether. But in Canada and in the US, I mean, there's still states that have it illegal in the US. I think New York just turned it over.
They did.
Which is huge.
It's so huge for New York.
Yeah, it's really big financially too, right?
Yeah,
because now they can finally start to be one of those cities,
Yeah.
like a cannabis tourism city.
Yeah.
I don't travel places if cannabis is illegal there.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you brought that up because I also will never travel places that I can't consume freely.
That's cool.
So I think it was like 3 years ago, I went to Cuba for the first time. And I looked it up and I was like, oh, wow, you can do jail time. Not interested,
Yikes.
right?
Ooh,
like,
yikes.
so, but I had, my back pain was like worse 3 years ago than it is now, right? So I went to my doctor and had to get pharmaceuticals. So I flew with like naproxen and like Tylenol 3s and whatever, right? So I go for 8 days. And when I come back, I go back to cannabis, right? And then I ended up getting like hives and I was getting like all this itching, whatever. And then someone was like, "Oh, you've got the opioid itch. You're like detoxing." And I was like, after 8 days, and do you let me tell you what the downside of not having cannabis for 8 days. I dreamt more, and they were crazy, fucked up dreams.
Right.
That was the right?
Yeah.
Whereas when I stopped taking like naproxen for 8 days only, I got hives. I was itching,
crazy,
like I was like whatever, and I'm like, you know, one's a plant. One you can literally grow it, like it's
without any supervision.
Right?
So crazy.
And this dream thing, because I've had this happen too, where you'll go like a week without smoking a J, and then your dreams are
They're
fucking
vivid.
wild.
I know, they're wild.
So, cannabis like a dream suppressant?
I've read some stuff about it, and I think it kind of messes with your whatever sleep, the
REM sleep,
the REM sleep, it kind of messes with it. Not for everybody, but I mean, I dreamt last night, but like a lot of times I don't dream.
Yeah, I don't dream at all.
Yeah, that's if you consume regularly.
Oh,
but
is that what it is?
Yeah, and then the minute you stop.
You start dreaming.
Hello.
So your head explodes.
It's like a big dump.
Sleeping.
It's like a big dump.
It is, and it's like why? Like sometimes it's like really like wacky shit.
I
but
like that I don't dream, man.
Me too.
I don't want dreams.
I used to dream like really like because it's a reflection. Like if you're going through drama in your life, like I used to have these dreamings where like I was falling, like never ending falling. Like that's terrifying. Like I'm not interested.
Dreams are for cute little puppies running in their sleep.
Yes.
Right? That's what I look at dreams. That's the only fucking dream I want to see.
What about lucid dreaming?
What is that?
Oh, when people actually live in their dreams?
What?
Actually are active and doing things in their dreams.
Oh, like you
controlling their
talk
dreams.
like,
Like
is this a dream?
Like actually controlling their actions in their dreams.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
about any of
that's okay. So I've tried to do that
Yeah.
a few
How the
times.
hell do you try
it's
to do
really well, because you realize that you're dreaming.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you're like, let's say like I would have like the falling off the building, right? So
Yeah.
I would be like, I'm not gonna do this. I know I'm dreaming.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like,
But still be able to stay within the dream
Yeah,
state.
still be able to stay with. I've done that. Yeah.
When I was in jail, I dreamt. Now I'm just starting to remember. That's weird because when I was in jail, I had the same dream all the time, and it was I'm walking down a desert highway, and I fall on my back, and when I look up, a motorcycle runs me over from my crotch. From my crotch over, it kills me.
Yes, that's trauma.
Is that what that is?
Damn.
I had that dream for 10 years straight.
Yeah, because of where you were.
Dude, it was the weirdest, and it was so real. I wake up, and my roommate be like, "Shut up!" Right? Like, right?
Weird coping mechanism.
I'll just go back to spooning them.
That's
Sorry.
That's like drama. That's
Oh, jeez.
yeah, no,
Okay.
it's frightening.
Well, thank God the weed suppressed that.
It does. No, that's so scary for you. I'm just thinking, like, oh my God, to have that like occurring.
Yeah, it was reoccur. I always thought this is how I'm gonna die. I'm gonna get run over by a freaking motorcycle.
Oh,
my
that's
God,
terrible.
that's so
Death is
horrible.
that? But the worst part is, it started at the crotch and then went to my head. So I'm gonna have that one sensation of crotch pain before my face gets run over. So I will have that memory embedded.
The most painful thing a man
horrible.
can go through.
It's horrible. Motorcycle running over your crotch, then your face.
Oh my
I wouldn't
God.
wish that on my worst enemy.
And over again.
And over every night, just innocently walking down a highway, just minding my own business in the middle of the desert.
Nope.
And I
Not
fall
today.
over nothing.
Not
Maybe a coyote
today.
runs across the thing. No, nothing. I just fall. It's fucking horrible.
So, what started your journey into cannabis cuisine?
Okay. So, when I lived in Calgary, 2013 is when I started a food business. So that's when I started a business. I was doing Jamaican fusion, all of that jazz. Then I had the car accident. And after the car accident, I shut things down. That was also around the time when the oil industry was tanking in Calgary. So it just wasn't a good time for a lot of people. So I shut it down. And I was like, I'm never doing food again. I'm over food, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get into the cannabis industry, blah, blah, blah. So I moved here. And a lot of Calgarians live in Vancouver. And I would bump into people that knew me.
Oh, wow.
And would be like, are you doing food? And so then I started doing food, but non-infused on the side, and then would have like customers that like I'd make wings for them, and they'd be like, hey, we went to this party and everybody knew you from Calgary. I'm like,
Small world.
so I was
Small
just
world.
like, okay, I feel like food is still part of my DNA. So that's how I kind of decided to fuse the two. And when I was working in the industry, I just started to go to cannabis events.
Right.
And then once I started going to cannabis events and meeting people and then telling them that I did food, it just kind of like intertwined.
Just made
and
sense.
Then, and then I was collaborating with people and doing events and blah blah blah. And so last
So you got
February,
famous. People start to know you after.
they
a little
started
while.
to know me a little
That's cool.
bit. And last February, I decided to do my own infused dining experience called
nice.
Faded Feast. And I like rented an Airbnb, and they,
Oh, wow.
oh my God, they were like,
that's so
they
cool.
loved my concept, and they were like, we're renovating upstairs. You can like do that next time. And then COVID hit.
Oh, geez.
It was February 2020, and then COVID hit March.
Turned everything inside out.
Turned my life around.
Oh, that's terrible.
But that's how I got into it, and so yeah, I love kind of bringing Jamaican fusion, especially at this part of the country, because there isn't a lot of Caribbean presence here. It's a very Toronto. They're all in Toronto.
Oh, for sure.
My family.
Do you ever go to Caribbean days out here?
I did go to the Caribbean Day. Actually, I volunteered for them.
Nice.
Because in Calgary, like, one thing people can say about Calgary, but there is a huge Caribbean community out there, and Edmonton. What? I was like a caterer at Reggae Fest.
Oh, wow.
I was like hired to do the green room, like and it's hard to please Jamaicans, by the way. And they loved my food, and then I was gonna come back the following year, but then I moved here. So, but yeah, I did like all sorts of big things over there. But the community is big there.
Wow.
And so I would do stuff specifically with the community there, and then here I was thinking of doing the same sort of thing, but then realized that it's so much smaller.
I could see you having
so much
a
smaller.
pretty big market here because there's a lot of cannabis users in BC.
Oh yeah.
But it's just a matter of having events again.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. And it's a matter of like, you know what it is that in Vancouver, more so than anywhere else, you have to stand out more.
You
Yeah.
do. And you have to just know the people. Like now
Yeah.
it's like I'm
It's a weird clicky
becoming
city.
it
Very cliquey,
is.
yeah.
It is very, very clicky. And now I've kind of got into that cannabis space where like I'm known as a canna chef,
Mm-hmm.
and especially being black and female, since that there isn't any other
None.
that I
Yeah.
know of yet
Yeah,
that are
yeah.
doing. You know, I
No,
don't see
not at
them
all.
in the circles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, so that's kind of what allows me to be like, people come to me.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty
A little
amazing.
bit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so now I'm trying to like, well, because of COVID, I need to change the framework of a business. So I'm going to be teaching workshops and teaching people
It's a good idea.
how to cook with it. And
Wow.
I feel like if you teach, people aren't afraid of food, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know they're afraid of edibles, but cooking with cannabis and an edible are two different things.
You know, it'd be a great business for you, and I don't know if it's legal, but it would be great. So you start your website or your business, and you go, okay, guys, I'm going to do a live cooking class with weed and whatever, and this is what we're gonna make, and it's gonna be on, let's say, Sunday at 8:00.
Yeah.
If you want to participate in this, send me X amount of dollars, and I'm gonna send you the ingredients.
Okay, I have something almost to top that. So what I'm trying to work on right now is to get a bowler trailer and cook out of that, so that COVID friendly, I would roll
Yeah.
up to your driveway.
That's pretty
wow.
dope.
Okay?
That's pretty
And then
sweet.
just run the food to your house
It's
and
amazing.
then
It's amazing.
piggyback off your Wi-Fi with my laptop and then broadcast with
genius.
you in your space.
Oh, it's so
That's really
dope.
good.
And me in my
Yeah.
whatever, and then here we are. I spend the hour with you,
Yeah,
and then I roll out.
That's dope.
That's dope,
That's
yeah.
such a
Thank
great
you.
idea.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought about it. Not
People
too
would
long
love
ago.
that.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
really good because
Yeah.
it's all about like coming out of COVID. It's going to be about interaction more.
And
so
not
than
everybody's
anywhere.
gonna want strangers in their house
No.
yet, right?
Yeah.
Like, so as a private chef, like I felt like at least I can roll up into your backyard or your driveway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gonna have my logo's very like look faded living. It's not
Easy.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like cannabis leaves all over the damn place. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's very discreet.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just roll up, and I think the novelty of it
Yeah,
will get people going. And then it's like I'm not coming into your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
not breaking any
great.
crazy rules.
drive-through.
It's
I mean,
just a
that's great.
drive-through, right?
and
Like,
you know what? That is a business you can build.
right?
Yeah, that's a business
Trucks
you can build.
everywhere.
Trucks.
Yeah. But you said something interesting before. You said edibles and infusion are not the
Or
same
it's
thing.
Totally different. The
Okay.
way I look at cannabis, cooking with cannabis, is thinking of microdosing,
Right.
right? Because basically, I'm a smoker, like 24/7. So, but I eat too, and I still work, right? Like, and
Right.
I still am like building a business, right?
Productive.
So I'm still productive.
Yeah.
So it's like low dose. I'm teaching people how to create a low dosed oil so that they can incorporate it into their life. Do you know that you can add oil or an infused honey to your tea or coffee, right? That isn't threatening to somebody. A joint is threatening to somebody, right?
Babies.
Right? But that isn't threatening. You know, eating this, which is infused, is not threatening to somebody, right? Like, so that's kind of how I'm trying to...
And edibles are essentially,
A specific dose to do a specific job.
which is to fuck you up.
Or to give you the reprieve, because, like, somebody who has, like, whatever... Stage 3 cancer
Mm-hmm.
is going to want like a 500 milligrams, whatever, in
Ooh.
their THC or, you know, or whatever, right? In an edible, because it's supposed to do that job of like relieving that pain,
Right,
right?
right.
But, and that's how we were introduced to edibles in the get-go.
Mhm,
Have a brownie to like fuck you up.
Yeah.
But cooking with cannabis, that's not, how is that going to benefit me by fucking you up when I have an event?
Yeah.
Makes
What
no
purpose?
sense.
I'm always
Oh, yeah.
like, I'm wanting you to feel like you're wrapped with a warm, cozy blanket.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's where it's at.
And you know, like another good one is weed weddings.
Oh, yes. Those are, oh my goodness,
If you
yes.
can get into weed weddings, that's going to be
Absolutely.
major business.
Absolutely.
Coming up.
And there was even in Calgary. So Calgary has a scene. Like I don't even know if I can say scene, but they have an industry because Calgary operates differently, right? Like even their alcohol industry is privatized. Like there's a liquor store in every block. Do you know, because I've researched this, to get a business license to open up a dispensary in Calgary, it's $387.
Wow.
And in BC, Vancouver specifically, it's
cheaper.
$33,000.
Is it?
Oh,
Wow.
400 and something dollars.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So who is encouraging what?
Why the disparity?
Ask
Look where
the
we live.
Vancouver. Look where
It
we
makes
live.
no sense.
I think it's because, and this is just my personal opinion, I think it's because Vancouver had this illicit gray market for 10 years. We just have a different scenario than other provinces that did not have that. And I think that's where
this city was built on weed.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the 90s that Vancouver became something, and it was because of the illicit weed activity in the city.
But dude, the gray market was popping. We had so many great
I was
places.
everywhere. I was living my best life when I first moved, because I was so glad I got to see what it looked like before it changed.
Buddy,
right?
I was trading weed bricks for birds back in the 90s.
Damn.
Right? So we trade like 10 pounds of weed for one brick of cocaine.
You see?
Like back then, that's how big it was, man.
And that's what I think that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
Because BC didn't do the best job of getting that market into the legal. I think that's why. And I also think the reason why it's so high is because BC knows how much money you can make.
It's crazy.
And I think that's, whereas
And people will pay
Calgary,
for it.
it's new, right? Like Calgary didn't have that.
The hypocrisy of it is sick.
It's crazy.
I know so many gray market cannabis dealers that funded so many of the politicians that are currently in power.
Absolutely. And you would think that they would have just rolled them into
would've been
whatever.
so
Do you know
easy.
what hurts my heart as a Torontonian is hearing all the licenses they get every day. And
Toronto?
hearing, oh my God, they're like what we used to be. They will tell you Queen Street, they'll be like, after the 10th one on Queen Street, I stopped counting. I'm like, if I could say that, I can't say that here anymore.
That's so sad.
We don't have, even on the legal side, we don't have that saturation like we had back then. And I
No,
just think that-
now to get a license, you have to be like an established, like the Burb or like Eggs Canada. Or you got to be like a big kind of franchise. seller of cannabis.
33,000 guys.
It's crazy.
Like 33 just for your license. And now they are having talks to reduce that.
That's so stupid.
Now they got all the drug dealers out of the business.
Yeah. But I think that's what what I mean. Like BC just has its own different
Small-minded
kind of thing. Like even in Kelowna or something like that, it's like 6,000 and something. So it's definitely a Vancouver
Definitely.
issue.
And we're just in a part of the world, Vancouver being the douchiest. Really, it is. And in the grand
For real.
concept of things, it's really one of the douchier cities.
You know what I said when I moved here? Well, my son said this. He's like, Vancouver is beautiful except for the people.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's so
I
sadly
now
true
am
sometimes.
here 4 years.
Oh,
I don't feel like that anymore, but I can understand in the first year or two when you move here, like especially coming from like Calgary where they
Everyone's like, "How you doing?"
oh my god, and if all the thing is like, oh my god, you're going to Calgary, like how racist. I'm like, listen, in Calgary, if they like you, they love you.
Yeah.
Right.
And they follow your ass and all the endeavors no matter what, and they will like roll out the red carpet for you when you come back. Even when I left,
Wow.
they were like, oh, she'll be back. I was like, oh no, motherfucker. Your weather can't compare.
Well, it's crazy because you say this and they sound so open-minded. But I remember last summer during the Black Lives Matter protests, they had a protesting an anti-racism protest.
Oh my god, stop it.
I'm like, what are you protesting? Were you protesting your right to be racist?
Yes.
Which just makes no sense. So you're saying they're open-minded. I'm like, wow, this sounds like two different places.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it depends. But I will say this, and I should always preface this. I only worked in like creative industries.
Right.
So I was around artists and musicians.
Open-minded people.
And so that's a very different, like I didn't work oil. I worked, when I first got there, I was in banking. Then I worked wealth management. And when I worked wealth management, I worked for this company where every client had a net worth of $1 million or more.
Ugh.
Okay. And I was opening up investment accounts. So I knew what their net worth. And they were like 27, net worth 33 million, 22, net worth 18 million. And I deposited a check from a woman and held it for $133 million. And she had $90 more million to invest.
Wow.
And that's when I Googled creative jobs in Calgary and I got my ass out and started to work in stock photography. Like, it's just too much.
It's
too
too
much.
much.
It's too much. I can't. It's not.
I'm the same.
It's not
It's
reality.
like, and that's how oil money was. Like people were making 200 grand and they were working. They were like 20 years old. 21
Yeah.
years old.
I used to work
Crazy.
in oil.
Yeah, so
in
like
finance.
it's
It was the
crazy
worst
money.
time of my life.
So that's a different people,
Right,
right? Like
of
that's
course.
not who I was.
Yeah.
I was like working stock photography, magazine publishing,
Good for you.
like
For you.
musicians.
That's the secret of life, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, fuck this, 9 to 5 and stuff. The thing
I
is
hear
the
you.
pursuit of like your passion. And I know we hear this.
Yes.
This is a big thing that's been the last 2-3 years, right? Is pursuing passion. And,
Absolutely.
they don't make it easy in Vancouver for you to do that.
Absolutely.
Almost impossible. Well, if you want to have a home and still chase your passions, it's virtually
forget
impossible.
about it. You got to pick your battles.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to pick your battles.
Yeah.
But one thing, just to piggyback on that, I think even COVID made me even realize, because I quit a job in COVID and decided to start doing
Damn.
business, right? Like I was like,
That's
because I
brave,
mean,
yo.
if we're all gonna die anyways, I might as well die like
yeah.
doing like this,
Yeah.
On your
and,
own
like,
terms.
hanging out. You know
It's
what I
truth.
mean? Like as opposed to like, dying doing what I was bad at, every
Being
kind of
miserable.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
like it just doesn't even make sense. So for me, this was the perfect time during
Yeah.
that 2020 to kind of like, I was working from home.
Mhm.
Cannabis was an essential business. It was
Right.
an essential service. So like nothing changed in my world, but my motivation for doing what I was doing, even though it was in the industry I wanted to be in, was just not working for me.
Yeah, of
and then
course.
the older that you get,
Yeah.
you start realizing, like, especially when you're in your 40s,
Mhm.
I'm 45 and alive, right? So I'm like, I'm hitting
What
second
was your-
stage
what's your
of life.
birthday?
June 6th.
June 6th. So
Yeah, so I'll
coming
be coming up to 46. So like, I mean, I'm kind of like, this is now my second stage of life. Is
Right.
the way I look at it. And second stage, like, you might as well just be doing what you want to do,
Yeah.
because all that stuff means nothing.
It's amazing because
Before
that's literally his life mantra
Oh, look at that.
all the time.
Yeah.
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 Well, because I've been a slave.
Hmm.
Right.
My ancestors were slaves, and my ancestors after that, all my relatives have been slaves to something. My mother was tied to a tree as a little black orphan. My mother's black. She was tied to a tree in Nova Scotia. And was thrown acorns and thrown at her and
That's so
stuff.
crazy.
You know what I mean? Like, we get into this way of thinking that that's how we have to be,
Right.
dude, because we see our parents have gone through that, and we go through it, and you have to break the cycle. You're doing that. You of all my friends, I see him doing it the most, pushing to get to that point, because
Yeah.
that, like, you're gonna teach your kids. Next thing you
Yeah.
teach your kids is to be independent and to not,
Well, I see
To
some of
fight,
those.
be
I
a
see some of
fighter.
those characteristics in them now, right?
You
Because-
taught them that.
Well, and the thing is, my wife is the same. She's a
Yeah,
go-getter. She's
Rosie's
nonstop.
amazing,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I see it in their personality traits now. Like, my son's trying to pursue and chase his dreams and stuff, and I see my daughter doing it.
Yeah.
She doesn't settle
Best.
for anything less than like, not even what is considered the best and our expectations. She has her own expectations of
own
herself.
self. Exactly.
Like she's only 14, turning 14, but she was obsessed with getting straight A's. She got a B in French, and she came home crying, and I was so happy.
Yeah.
It's like you were that mad about getting a B. I was so excited. I'm like, because I don't have to push that
Yeah, she
that
set
thirst
her own-
anymore, right?
yeah.
Now she's set that expectation for herself, and I think it's huge, man. Because I mean, we don't know what the world's gonna be like 10 years from now. I think we saw a catastrophic failure this past couple of years, and I think we're starting to understand that the people that we choose to elect really have no idea how to get us out of catastrophes
110%.
at all. And I don't want to say it's minor because so many people lost their lives, but when you really think about it, a viral outbreak like this should be something we expect. As human beings, we're parasites. We carry parasites all the time. We share germs
And it's like
everywhere.
happened before. Just because it
Right.
hasn't, like, where were you
Like we
guys
weren't
with
ready.
SARS?
Yeah.
Like, why are you acting like
Yeah.
that? Like,
So
what do you
we've
even
never
talk-
experienced before.
H1N1? What do you even?
Yeah.
Do you know how crazy the H1N1 was in Calgary? Like, people
So
were
bad.
losing their lid.
Yeah.
Ebola, guys.
yeah.
Remember?
What? Where
We
have
all
you guys
forget.
been?
Well, and the fact that Ebola can happen on the planet,
Yeah.
which is like a essentially a serial killer,
Yeah.
mass murder, everything it touches.
Yeah.
This is not a different planet where this happened. This is on the same planet. You don't think that the most industrialized countries be like, well, we can't let this shit happen here. But we got an advanced flu, and it ruined everything. I hate even going here, but everyone says we're due for an earthquake. We're due for an earthquake. If we have a catastrophic natural disaster in BC, what happens?
Well,
The whole thing crumbles.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
that they could do to save us from any kind of catastrophe.
yeah.
No, and there's nothing really, I believe, in my heart of heart that they can do to help us either when the time comes. And
that's why you just have to back to like living your best life as best as you can, because at the end of the day, like, I mean, at least when you leave, you could at least safely say that you did what you wanted to do and you ran things, you know,
on your own
terms,
in
your own terms, kind of thing. Because what I've learned, especially working at LP during like the cannabis whatever, like I made it through 2 layoffs. The first layoff was 500 people.
oh wow,
Right, and then the second layoff was like after COVID, and it was like a few other 100 people,
Oh
and then
my
they
God.
still have laid off after I've left, right? And that's a story of a lot of LPs that have went through layoffs, and so many. I've been laid off before, like so many other industries, they can cut your ass in a heartbeat, right? Like, I mean, so why not like do for you,
100%. And
you know?
good.
And I was having this conversation with somebody else today, and we are talking about how, you know, we've talked about socialism and stuff before on the show, and people like to use words that they don't understand, and socialism seems to be one of these things. And it was so weird because it's kind of a strange day today. You know, we had the Derek Chauvin conviction, thankfully, no sentence yet, but at least a conviction. And I met an Indian guy today, all out Trump supporter.
Why?
Yeah. So, and I work in the retail industry, so I can't really. No, like East Indian. And I can't really tell someone I work in retail, so I can't really tell someone, "Hey, shut up! You sound like you're crazy." He came at me with it. I was selling him a phone, and he came at me with this and said that in 2024, Donald Trump's going to return with the U.S. military, take back power, and imprison Biden and Clinton and all these people and imprison them, and take over the country as the ruler that he's supposed to be. This is a brown skinned person. And all I could say was, listen, man, you drank way too much of this Kool-Aid. This conversation doesn't make any sense, because I just couldn't go there. And we started talking about socialism and the concept that people have of not wanting to help out the people that are doing the worst in society. That doesn't apply to me. That's their responsibility. They should take care of themselves. That's not up to me. The idea that we can live in this society, you know, we all pay taxes, we contribute to this, whatever is supposed to be this greater good to help people. And the thinking that I don't need to help anybody else outside of what's put in my pocket. This kind of thinking is never going to allow us to create a society where people can live their best life ever, because there's just too much inequity. Like, banks got bailed out during COVID.
Oh yeah.
Billion-dollar businesses got bailed out during
The
COVID.
company I talked about also got money, even though they laid off how many people?
Which
it
is
was in the paper. It was in the whatever. It was like online.
Yeah, and
So,
that's supposed to be illegal.
Right.
That's not supposed to happen. But I mean,
Just saying.
different rules for everybody. Yeah. But we got into conversation of CERB and how people have been on CERB every month, and eventually, when you file your taxes, you're gonna have to pay tax on every single one of those checks.
Did that today.
If you don't already have an income, and you're receiving income from the government, how are you expected to pay back
That doesn't even make sense.
the CERB
Doesn't make
tax?
sense.
You're already broke.
Yeah.
So I have no faith in any of this recovery that they're talking about happening, because the recovery only seems to help the people that are already.
Oh, always. This is what I have to say about the whole COVID situation. Like, who is running things? Because Vancouver doesn't lie about the weather, right? Like, in wintertime, I was in bed at 8 o'clock because 3:30 felt like midnight, okay?
Wow.
The darkest days. I don't know if it was because I was no longer in fluorescent lighting in an office, whatever, but like, I was drained like during those winter. Guess what's a perfect time to like pay our asses $4 or $5 grand a month to stay home for 2 months?
Yeah.
Who's really going to complain if you're getting $4 or $5 grand a
Not a
month
single
that you
person.
don't have to pay anything back?
Yeah.
Like, who?
Not a single person.
Right? Like, this whole like just like deal, like, that could have been dealt with.
Yeah.
And now it's summertime coming up.
I know.
And now
It's
they're like, oh my
crazy,
God,
eh?
we don't know what we're going to do with y'all. Oh, you guys really are going to hit Kitts Beach and you're going to hit English Bay? Like, yeah, no kidding. Because that's.
It's summer. It's summer. That's
Well,
what we do in the summer.
You can't keep people trapped in their homes in the most beautiful city, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, at the most beautiful time of year, and there's no progress. It's not. Yeah, it's not like we're getting somewhere. It's not like there's like an end goal. Like, oh, we vaccinated half the population. We're not there. Yeah. We're just being told that, oh, we'll get there. Dude, it's gonna be over a year of the exact same routine.
That's how it was planned. It was planned.
That's what I'm saying.
We had an election halfway through a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We had in America had an election halfway through a pandemic. What's the chances of that happening? And what was the chances of it being the major topic to get these guys reelected or elected? Right. Was COVID. Yeah. Like, it's too... I really believe this happened. They said, oh my God, we have a political opportunity. And then it just fell out. And then they were like, oh my God, we're really inept. We can't control this. And then it just kind of took off. And then it became a political issue. And then, it's going to always be a political issue. Masks are always going to be a thing for us.
40.
Get with it.
Yeah, I think it's up to 40,000 small businesses in Canada that closed, and there's no reprieve or support of any kind.
Just walking downtown in Vancouver, it's like depressing ghost town. Like, but just large businesses too, with like for lease and whatever the case may be. Like, at the end of the day, like, this didn't have to go like this. Yeah. You had the money. You had the money for the airlines. You had the money for all other corporations. You could have, you did CERB, but like taxing. No, just give people. Like, we could have done this. Yeah. We could have been out of this like a year ago already.
Yeah,
like,
we could have.
Paid proper. Who's going to complain by $4 or $5 grand a month?
No one.
No tax.
We would have been through this.
We need a universal basic income for sure.
I really believe has handled this the worst of all the countries.
They were like,
we only have 30 million.
Basically at the beginning with the CERB, it was like, Canada, yes, do your damn thing. Yeah. And then this vaccine rollout situation. Yeah.
Drop the ball.
I am like...
Everything. Doug Ford dropped the ball.
Oh, Doug Ford.
I mean, Rob Ford. All right, whatever.
I just want to say, I'm on Twitter. Okay, because, I got to find out with my people, right? Yeah. Like, and Twitter is hilarious.
Yeah, it's the best. I've started following Twitter.
I don't mean to giggle at the expense, but what I'm laughing at is the fact that Ontarians are so funny and witty with this whole being locked down since November. With red zone, green zone, gray zone, all these kind of zones.
They're
and
having a tough
fighting for paid sick leave, and the guy's like, no, not today. And I'm like, what?
Well, the lack of foresight from the leadership, I think, is the most embarrassing. Like, I have an older brother that lives in New Zealand, and now
he's living it. I talked to a friend. Oh my God, they're concerts, 10,000 people, no problem.
No masks. Leave the house normal.
0 cases.
Yeah, I told him we're wearing masks everywhere. He was laughing at it. He was laughing. You guys look like idiots. Internationally, you look like fools.
Guess what, though? They were strict.
Very.
This is the problem with when you say sometimes people don't know the definition of a word. And in the case for us, they used a word lockdown and made it mean 1,000 different things. So when people say a lockdown doesn't work, well, clearly what we call a lockdown doesn't work, but it does work for countries that actually did an actual lockdown. But what that means is like only one person was allowed to go out of their house to shop. There was a curfew at 8 o'clock. You only had 1 hour of exercise a day. Everything was shut down except for pharmacies. Like, that's a lockdown.
Yeah.
That is a lockdown. What we're doing is like just playing around with you, and then you wonder why people are losing their lids. Like,
because our leaders don't lead, and we listen to. And I hate to always say soccer moms, because I know a couple really good soccer moms out there when their kids are playing, but. Right, but it's true, man. They have the loudest voice in this country, and it drives me crazy.
Why are schools open though? Like, I just don't even understand. Like, I used to work in Montessori schools when my kids were little, and in daycare centers until I was like, I'm around kids way too much, and I can't do this. It's like I have 3 sons, like too much. Like, but like back then, like kids get sick all the time.
Germ
Their noses always running. They're always touching shit. Like, yes, they learn. Yes, you can teach them to wear masks, whatever. But like, why would you think that it was a good idea to have schools open? And I get it. But like, we could have been done by now, though. That's my whole point. Is like, if you had shut schools down and all that stuff for 2-3 months maximum, we would be New Zealand.
Yeah. And I think the information was so poorly given. Like, first of all, the media is culpable because the media refuse to create a cohesive statement across the board and are focusing on their personality still. Like, I want to be a star. I want to be a star. This is not about you right now. This is about getting people the best information.
What? Quebec is like a war zone.
It's a war zone.
Have you seen some
It's
of those
horrible.
videos? Like,
They don't show you everything.
Oh,
It's unreal.
TikTok shows you all of the
TikTok's
things.
the best.
I love
The best.
TikTok.
What do you mean
for
war
that.
zone?
Oh, they're like running. They've been protesting every night. They're chased by cops every night because of the curfew. Like, it's like, and they all have these aerial views, so you
Yeah.
get to like see, like, it's like a video game.
Dude, it's so
It's
crazy.
crazy.
There. It's so crazy right now.
Yeah, I think that's been my biggest frustration is just
You can't go out of your block and everything.
No, it's
like,
bad.
not-
It's
well,
like,
and that's what I heard was going to happen in
happen,
in BC as well. That they're going to keep you within your own little health authorities.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I can't even believe I didn't tell you this. I got pulled. I went through a stop check today.
Oh,
I can't even believe I didn't tell you this, dude. It was down on United Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
So just before you, when you're coming out of Coquitlam down the hill there and over the bridge,
Right.
and then you come over and then you come down to go onto United Boulevard.
Yep.
It was right there, and it was a stop, and they were stopping cars. And they stopped a taxi guy, and they had the taxi guy pulled over, and then they had a truck and all that. But they didn't stop me. It's like they were stopping every other
Oh,
car
that's probably
or
what I saw
something.
today then. Yeah, I think I saw that too.
Dude, it was cops everywhere, and they were stopping. Then they stopped the taxi, and looking, okay, go over here, and they pulled him over to the side, and then they had another one. They let me go through. I'm like, dude, they let me go through. That's the first time that's ever happened.
But you've been pretty good overall,
What do you mean?
as far as like staying within your own circle and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, you mean
Yeah.
like as in health?
Just being responsible, yeah.
Oh yeah, I have no
yeah,
friends.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've been home.
Yeah.
I've loved every minute
That's
of being,
fantastic.
But I also enjoy my own company, and that's the problem with COVID. People are realizing they don't like themselves.
That's huge.
Just saying.
Wow.
I really enjoy myself.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
a
am
big
hoot,
deal.
And so I stay within my neighborhood is
Yeah.
really interesting. So I go for Strathcona is a very interesting.
Oh, it
neighborhood.
is, for sure.
And you know what it is? It's this tiny little bubble because people actually talk. It's like Calgary
Hmm.
vibes in Vancouver. People talk to you.
Yeah.
They say hello.
But did you hear what she just said? She said, I like myself. I'm a hoot.
Yeah.
But people never say this kind of stuff.
No,
People
I love-
don't. People. I don't hear people say I enjoy my own company, but
Oh,
they
yeah,
should. You should enjoy your own
That's
company.
What COVID. That's the problem. That's the whole thing. That's why there's chaos, right?
Yeah.
Because people have had to be by themselves.
Yes.
And I realized how much time I've wasted doing things I absolutely didn't want to do. And I'm
Yeah.
a Gemini, so like somebody asks me to do something, and I'm like, "Yay, yeah!" Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Exclamation
Yeah.
mark! Like I didn't even think if I really want to do it.
And you're a wood rabbit too.
Yes.
So you're wood rabbit Gemini.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I know. I know. I'm like that's.
You're
I'm
you're
ready.
right
like
there.
yeah, ready for it. And so now
It's so over my head.
so good to be able to be like, it's the awakening. So, it's so good to be like. I don't need to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, the most entertainment I have is having like a walk in a park with a
Right.
friend, and it'll be weeks before I do that. Like, all of my entertainment is online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, really and truly. Like, this has been the first, like, since 2020. Like,
Wow.
like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't really.
But I think
You know?
this is part of the evolution of humans, and I've said this. People are like, "Oh, they're forcing us," and I've never thinking about anybody forcing, because there's too much force to push back
Okay, I'm
against
gonna
force.
say something about that. for
But
sure.
what I think is that we're evolving as a species right now,
Yeah.
and this pandemic is kind of exposing us
Absolutely,
to
the curtain.
what we need to be, and
Yeah.
not who we are, but what we need to be.
Which is.
Which is we need to adapt that, just like our ancestors stopped riding horses and buggies and finally got into a car and evolved and went faster in life and discovered that they could go faster than just on a horse.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It changed their life. And we're now at that part where we've been riding horses for so long, and now we're about to jump into a rocket ship.
Well, we're in the next level.
We're
of
in that
things,
next
right?
level,
Yeah.
and we have to evolve and adapt to it.
Yeah, or don't. I mean, we all have choices, right? Like this is, there's all the conspiracy
too many.
theories and all that
Too
kind
many.
of stuff. But for the Canadians that are really into that, my question is, then why isn't Canada doing a better job to vaccinate us then? Like, if they really want to
Well, what?
Like why, like
We can't.
Yeah, why aren't they coming to your house and
like-
holding you
like,
down and
why
stabbing
isn't
you
there
with
a
it?
website
Yeah.
that works
Yeah.
that like you
It's
know what I
this.
mean?
No, but I get what you're saying because the prevailing conspiracy, they just want to vaccinate
Yeah,
all
so
of
then
us,
you
and
would think that it would be a smooth rollout. You would think that we would be boom, 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 like a system, whatever. You got 1 point something million of whatever in a freezer.
Yeah.
That whatever says like, yeah, we don't have enough people,
Yeah.
and then ask Kenny for help. Like what?
yeah.
So I mean, they're not really like trying to get this going and flowing as quickly as.
But do they know how? Do they even know how? This is my issue. Have we put so many incompetent people into place that we can't even figure out a simple distribution of a vaccine when we have hospitals and we have clinics and we have pharmacies and we have places where people can fucking go if they choose to and get vaccinated. So we just, everybody in government's just incompetent. That's what we're saying.
How do you be in government and not pay attention to what's going around the world? Yeah. So like even with our neighbors, like how do you see like their speedy whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that you need to totally mimic, but how do you not see what's going on with your neighbor and say, hey, like maybe we should like try to figure this out?
Do what they're doing.
At 1/10 of the population.
Yeah.
We're a tiny country. This should be done.
We walk all over our politicians and they allow us to do it. They're so scared to make definite decisions. They have to.
They're so
Right.
scared.
They have to ease us into martial law, but really with kid gloves, right, and make
Yeah.
us feel good about it.
Because
You know
what
I
I'm
mean?
seeing
That's what it
in
is.
Ontario and Quebec, it's frightening.
It's frightening.
It is really frightening. Like, and yeah, I don't do news, whatever, but I do TikTok, right? And TikTok gives you like
A lot of chaos.
but it also tells you what's going on the streets because people are making videos, right? Like,
Yeah.
and they're there, right? And so you kind of get it from like a regular like not glossed up like an
Right.
Instagram does, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like real.
Old school street
So
reporting.
how do you
Yeah.
adapt? Look at the future is all about giving people a leg up,
Yeah.
giving people handouts. It's all about handouts. We're coming to a handout generation.
Oh, Universal's coming.
It's coming.
What there's no jobs,
gotta
you have
accept
to.
it.
Yeah.
You got to accept the fact that it's better for the government to give you $2,500 a month and know where that $2,500 is going in digital money, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's why they're talking about the digital coin in Canada, because your
okay.
extra money is going to come in digital Canadian money. So
Yeah.
that digital money will be exchanged for services only on the web.
Yeah.
And that's where
That
everything
makes
is.
sense.
It's
Well,
where
and I mean,
it's where it will happen. So we'll all get universal supplemental income. So it'll allow guys like us to have jobs, but that extra money to pursue our dream and our passion.
It will make us actually better. And the
It will.
reality is, like, the way we were, when they say, like, you're never going to go back to that normal, because it's always going to be a modification of what we knew.
Yeah.
It's not, and regardless, even if it wasn't something big like this, like, we're changing every day, though.
Yeah,
guys.
for
Like,
sure.
I mean, we're not, like, I know it's nice to feel comfort in what things used to be like, but like you said, we're not on horses and buggies and all that kind of stuff. We've evolved over
Well,
time.
and the old normal wasn't good. The
No.
old normal wasn't good. It was good for a handful of people. It's not good for the majority
It's good
of
for
people.
our moms and dads.
Well, I mean, I think they went out of their way to become something, right? Like I think my parents came here, they had nothing, right? And they worked their asses off to build family and future for themselves at whatever expense. The expense was being happy because all they did was work, right? And you're not
I
happy
was
when you're
in
working
that
all the
life.
time.
You're not happy when you're like,
No.
even when I had my former business, I was working 7 days a week, right? Like, and having 3 sons that were much younger than they are now, right? And that, I think I had the car accident to halt that because that's not living
Changed everything.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, I mean, I set my own hours and I'm still sort of like pre-revenue-ish. Like, I'm still brand spanking new,
Mm-hmm.
but I put my time in and I don't work past certain things. I do add to the business every day, but on my terms,
That's the biggest thing.
right?
on
And
your
so when
terms.
I have energy, I have energy. Yesterday I was in the park all day. It was
Mm-hmm.
nice. I wanted to be on the sun.
It's amazing.
So
Amazing
I
freedom to
did
have.
it. You know
But
what I mean?
one interesting thing I think both of you kind of referenced was that you both feel like there's a silver lining. You both feel like there's something optimistic to look
We're
at.
both wood rabbits.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you feel some optimism.
because you like I feel like I need to be aware of what's going on in the world. But the more that you spend in that, the less you're spending on you. Right. So I'm very much in my own world.
Yeah.
Like
Bars.
sometimes people
Same.
will like talk to me on the street and be like, ask something to me, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm my own little world. Like I literally am always thinking about like how I can advance what I'm doing and how I can like work less. Even
That's
I want
important.
to work less than I'm even working
That's
now.
important.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like and just like spread the word about this wonderful plant. Like it's done such amazing things for me, and it's just allowed me to awaken and just see what life is really all about. Like and it's not about what this 9 to 5 nonsense that they created. Like that system is like not even it's not conducive for a really great life. To work
100%.
like how many other parts of the world even have like a live to work?
Right.
Like this whole thing is not
Yeah.
Oh, that's North America living.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
it's a
not
culture
even-
we've created.
Yeah, like
And-
you go other places, they have siestas.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Think about it. They sleep in the middle
We've
of
created
the
this.
day.
This is pure capitalism.
such
Yeah,
a
this is the capitalist
ridiculous,
system.
Like,
Yeah.
realm of reality. Like, and it doesn't have to be that. And you literally can create your own realm within chaos.
Yeah, that's a superpower, man. That's a superpower to be able to
Yeah.
just cut all that other stuff off and be like, this is my world that I'm going to create. Because honestly, man, I can say 100% it absolutely transformed my entire thinking. The first joint I ever smoked, after that changed my perspective and my thinking completely. Yeah, makes you completely hyper aware of the world around you in a different way.
So this is the interesting thing, though, because when they back to this conspiracy stuff, like if they want to like just like control us and all that kind of stuff, it's interesting how cannabis is getting legal in like everywhere.
Yeah.
And that is a third eye awakening.
Well, because
So
they
it's
went,
kind of like really kind of trippy.
Yeah,
in my
well, I mean,
mind, you know what I mean? Like when you think about it, 'cause
the institution went out of its way to make it illegal,
yeah.
to put it in the same place as heroin,
Yeah.
which is nonsense when you think about it. It just makes you're making the entire population, you're acting like they're idiots.
Yeah.
You're acting like they can't tell the difference between cannabis and heroin when you put them in the same criminal place.
Yeah.
So the fact that they went out of their way to criminalize it must say something about its efficacy to making people better, because
Yeah.
it's rare that I meet a stoner I don't get along with,
Oh.
personally.
Yeah.
Well, I think also, like, you think of politicians, it's starting to get to the generation of politicians of those who have smoked weed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's going to be a bunch of 90s kids in politics running the show, running the entire show.
Gen Z,
And
I'm
it's
here
har-
for you.
And it's hard to lie and say you haven't smoked weed when you're a fucking 90s
Mm-hmm.
kid. So eventually it's this part of this evolution again,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the people who make us evolve see years ahead of us.
Yeah.
They already know where we're going. They
Yeah.
already know we're going to legalize cocaine in North America.
Oh yeah.
They already know this.
Because they're tired.
They're
Because
tired
guess
of
what? Not
fighting.
even that. It's like those people are not going to be there anymore.
Yeah.
So you like, and the ones, you're going to have like a little bit of the ones underneath that, followed their family's ways. But like, there's going to be way too many other
Too
ones
many.
that think so differently.
Too many
like,
selfies and
Yeah.
videos from parties of politicians
Yeah.
when they were younger.
oh my God.
Right? It's all going to come out. So they have to combat it and say, well, it was illegal, but we legalized it. So
Exactly. Things
it's-
are shifting. I'm
it's
here for
different.
it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I
I'm
think it's the
not as
first time in a while.
pessimistic as I used to be. But then again, I'm also in my world,
Mhm.
right? And when you're in your world, honestly, like that whole like law of attraction and like attracts like and giving off. I've lived in a life where I had a lot of drama. So then you have negative vibes. And guess what negative vibes do? It gives you negative shit in your life. Like every bill comes out of the yin yang. The checks you wrote
Yeah.
for your kids, whatever. Now
Everything
they
take
all
personal.
decided to like cash the
Yeah.
fucking check, even though they've had it for
Yeah.
2 months. Like everything happens, right? And then the minute that you shift and you like, even down for me when I talk about like Vancouver and the people, like I've never had any problem with people. The minute I walked here, I had people like giving me their seat on a SkyTrain, and I would tell my friends in Calgary, I was like, I don't know if they think I'm feeble or what. They're like, no, it's just your energy. You're like so excited to be there. And then I started to realize like they're feeding off my energy.
Wow.
So like I haven't had any issues in the city, and I've met like the most wonderful people. But
That's huge.
It does work. Like, what's the alternative? Like,
yeah.
I mean, like
Being sour
and
all
if
day.
you can't, like, if you don't feel it yet, like, trick your mind to think it. Lie to yourself. Like, eventually, it doesn't know any different.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain just knows what you tell it. So, fake
That's some shit.
All right,
Just
so
saying.
in just changing the subject, and I don't mean to be so crass when I do
No.
this,
Bring
but what's the cop gonna get in the sentencing?
Oh,
What's his name again? Chavot?
Chauvin.
Chauvin.
I would say.
Isn't it harsh
the
that
max.
it's like sounds like chauvinistic?
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
it just
does.
crazy
Yeah.
how the powers that be have selected a man to go down that has that name Chauvin that makes you think chauvinistic, that instantly makes you think guilty. I don't like
Yeah.
chauvinistic people.
Yeah.
You're fucking getting roasted.
Yeah, dude, he's got to go. He's got to go for a long
Yeah,
time.
he has to go for a long time.
Yeah.
They will burn the city.
Oh, it'll come down.
Down.
You know what the most outrageous thing is? They're planning for the city to burn down because they
Yeah.
don't even have that faith in their own justice
No.
system.
Well, the thing is, if I think that they thought that he would have gotten off,
Which
but
is
I think
crazy.
that again, 2020, people were home. Yeah. I didn't even watch the video, but I've seen enough trauma as a black person to need to
100%.
watch like the trauma porn is
Yeah.
what I like to call it, right?
For sure.
Like,
That's what it
so I
is.
stopped watching like any kind of slave movies from like probably more than 10 years.
That's good.
I don't do that kind of stuff,
good.
but other people watched it.
Oh, they're obsessed with it.
And when they watched it, now it's like a different kind of 12 people that are on the jury. Because before, I feel like they've always convinced themselves that, no, that person did blah, blah, blah. You know, that person did da, da, da. And, like, when you watched it, you can't, your conscience will.
Oh, if you don't feel that, you're a cold
You know?
motherfucker, man.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
But do you think he was like, was it proven that he was racist or was he just ignorant?
Okay, so he's a piece of shit.
He's just an ignorant
From
piece of
other
shit,
police
obviously.
departments he was in. This is not his first
he
offense.
has a record.
He's got
right?
multiple
so this
offenses.
Is him being
Yeah.
an ignorant.
But he had issues with George Floyd before. They worked at a club
worked at a
together,
club together.
so they had interaction before, and I think this was he was trying to teach him a lesson.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
He was being a
So-
piece of
It
shit.
was like a beef. Like, yeah.
If you listen to the cardiovascular experts that are talking in the trial, and they're talking about the position he was in and the things that Chauvin was doing to increase the pressure he was putting on his neck, lifting up his heels off the ground, leaning on the car a little bit at certain times to put more pressure on the neck. It was deliberate. It was straight up murder, right?
Yeah.
There's no questions asked. But I think what's wild is in this city, me and Queez, the guy over there, we made hip hop music together for a long, long time. And a lot of our music was protest music when we first started writing music. We made music for protest, basically. And I remember going to a lot of protests as a young 20-year-old. 60, 70 people show up. 80, 90 people show up. Last summer,
Oh.
20,000 people in the
It was a change.
streets.
I felt the shift.
Unbelievable. This is like the first real protest my kids can remember being at, and the whole time they're just in this sea of people. And so many times you just stand there and watch this non-stop ending of people, just sea of people, and you're like, yeah, shit's changing.
I knew
Shit's
that
changing.
that didn't even make me think of the change. So I was born and raised Toronto, right? And Toronto was a great place to live because I had such a multicultural group of people, right? And the whole city and all that kind of jazz. But last year was the first time that I actually talked about race openly with white people.
Wow.
And white people, probably that was the first time that they've heard their black friends or person of color friends or whatever actually talk openly about race.
That's crazy.
And then I was, like I said, I draw, like, for the most part of my life, good people, so that the people that were in my life, the white people, they were talking my language. I didn't have to convince jack shit.
Right.
I didn't see any nonsense on my Facebook wall at all. No ignorance at all, right? So for me, but it was the first time I was actually having conversations.
And you know
Huge.
what? This is why I really firmly believe that the 2020 Person of the Year should have truly been the president, Donald J. Trump, because his amazing efforts at uniting black and white people due to his ignorance should have been rewarded at the highest degree.
Yeah. You know what? You know what?
You
the
know,
problem is,
the way
man?
that he made people look at themselves and say, "I don't want to be like that," made them go to their
He
black
didn't
neighbor.
even realize what he was doing.
But the problem is, there's a whole other segment of people that are just like him, and they're loud. And okay, so
But their kids won't be.
see, the worst part for me is like growing up, I wasn't a big dude, right? And one of the worst, and I grew up in a East Van area where if we went to school, you either fought or you got bullied, one or the other, right? And the fucking scariest thing for an undersized brown guy is a giant white guy.
Yeah.
And it's fucking terrifying. And we saw this video just a couple weeks ago. This military guy in the neighborhood, and he was bullying a black kid walking in his own neighborhood.
Yeah, I saw that.
And this
Now he's in
gigantic
witness protection.
army dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the scariest thing. Honestly, the scariest thing. I don't think there's a reversal of this dynamic that you can have where you can create this kind of fear in a brown person, because a white person can take your life and not worry about going to jail.
No, they don't.
You'd not worry about it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that to say that that's just the way it is for every white person on the planet. But having the belief that I could hurt you and not be punished is a totally different approach to
And
things.
have seen it for years upon
And
years
have it
upon
reinforced.
years upon years.
Yeah.
And know it internally that that's happened, and people in your family that might have worked on the force, whatever, have still gotten moved up the ranks. You know what I mean? Like it just changes like this. It's this invincible kind of
100%.
mentality, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And the thing is, for me, like, if I get into a confrontation with somebody, I'm not going to throw a punch at all, because I know exactly what's going to happen. I would literally wait to get hurt before I retaliate. And it's not the same the other way around. That role reversal doesn't exist where a giant white dude like that could fuck you up. So the whole Trump thing, people being able to see the worst in themselves, it kind of emboldened this whole other group of people. The whole other group of people that were quiet for a long fucking time, man. Barack Obama was in power for 8 years. They were silent.
8 years. That's what I'm saying. I knew a shift was going to change.
Yeah.
It has to.
And
It
that was like a
does.
powder keg just waiting. They're just waiting. I want to be able to say the N-word again. I want to be able to call you whatever your racial derogatory slur is. I'm just waiting for that moment.
Yeah.
And Trump just made them all believe that they could do it openly and publicly.
But now what's happening is that the shift has happened too far. And it's gotten past the point of, equality. Now it's getting angry.
Yeah, it's angry.
Right? It's not. There's a different tone to these feelings.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's
and
bad.
if you listen to podcasts and shit, like, there's a lot of real, like, all right, everybody, it's time to take over. You know what I mean? Like, there's a feel with a lot of pundits and people on the line that, hey, get ready. It's coming.
Yeah. They all
the
know
States.
it's coming in the States.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Or I hear the talk kind of thing. And you see it because they're vaccinated, and then the shootings are back.
Yeah.
Right? Like
All the
Crazy.
time. These guys are
like
The States is just
it's,
Holy
it's the whole
shit.
I am just like, what the hell? I think I saw a stat that said like I think they're at 200 and something shootings, mass shootings in 2021.
That's unbelievable.
wow.
Yeah,
How many?
Unbelievable.
240, I think.
Wow,
is-
crazy.
Yeah, already.
Wow. I think that's one
I'll
thing
look
we've
it up
done
again
better is
'cause
the
I
gun
saw
laws.
it and I was just like, that is just because you
Yeah.
only see like you don't. There's so much we don't see.
There's nowhere else
That's
in the
the whole
world
thing,
where this
right?
happens.
Yeah.
Nowhere else, unless the country is at war.
Yeah.
There's nowhere else on the planet
The
where
open
citizens just shoot
carry
each
is
other.
So frightening to me. I don't even know how they do.
Well,
that.
now in Texas, they just passed a new open carry to make it even easier. Where you don't even have to have a permit. You can just have a gun.
Oh my! Because they're getting ready. Like, how do you allow that?
It's
And now
terrifying.
I think that. Like,
But do you see what Texas did? The pulling the shade over everyone's eyes. Oh, there's little rumblings that Matthew McConaughey, all right, is coming into politics.
Right, I
and they're
heard
trying to
about
elect
this.
him as the
Right.
governor of. I'm like, see, it's just shade,
He's
right?
he's way too likable. That guy.
Too likable.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
gonna get it.
Yeah.
And this is the injection of celebrities using celebrities,
Yeah.
right? Because celebrities don't need money; they want celebrity. They want to be
Well, and the
recognized.
Rock thing, they just had a
Rock's
poll
gonna
about
do
Rock
it.
being the president, and he's like, "Oh, I'm very thankful to everybody."
Oh, you mean my television show that says I'm gonna? Oh, that thing. That's just a joke.
oh my god!
I have $1 billion to run for like. Oh, all it costs is $1 billion. Yeah.
No big
Okay.
deal.
Cool.
He's got
yeah,
it.
No problem.
He's got it.
I got that.
Oh my goodness.
It's what's gonna happen. I think this Trump started the celebrity
I hate
Oh,
hearing that.
absolutely.
presidential thing.
Absolutely.
Every person in Hollywood is like, you think Will Smith is sitting there making videos like us and because he does. He's
yeah.
making it in his garage and shit. Jada doesn't want anything to do with that. You make that fucking shit in the garage and leave the kids out of it. Right? Kid doesn't come down there at all. It's just
It's
Will
him.
with
It's just
his fancy man cave of production studio.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
That's what he does. But do you think he doesn't look and go, yo, fuck Trump, man. I got $1 billion and I got Scientology behind me. You don't
You think he's a Scientologist?
Yeah, of course he is.
Oh.
I think most of them
Most
are.
of them are.
Oh shit.
Because the part of I get into cults. Let me just tell you guys.
Oh, really?
I was into cults for quite some time, but I got into the Scientology thing of things, and they would go to like actors and actresses in
Right.
Hollywood. Like that's how they
Damn.
recruit them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them. So.
I know Tom Cruise is one of their big.
They
Yeah,
need-
and
they
he was
need
like
a president.
recruited through like an acting class
that's so
or whatever.
weird.
Like that's how they.
That's so weird. Humans are so brain dead sometimes.
Dude, it's the quest. We all have a quest when we're born, right? Like personalities, years you were born, all these things make a difference as to what your quest is in life, right?
Yeah.
I believe the Chinese calendar tells everything that you need to know about what you need to do in life and how you need to direct yourself, right? And most of the time when I meet other wood rabbits, I'm like, yeah, fucking right. That's a fucking wood rabbit. She is totally verge of a tiger and a little bit of goat.
It's the truth.
It's the truth, though. She's totally that way.
Like
man.
minds.
Yeah. And it's like, this is our path, and your path is, with Scientology, I think they are the next superpower on our planet, dude. Because no one has taken them seriously.
Well, because they torture people. I hate this. I've read some of the
one
stuff
takes
they
them
do to their
serious.
people. They torture their members and
slowly they're in
Well,
there.
but that's what a lot of cults like that
Right.
hide behind self, empower,
Right.
all of that kind of stuff because they need your dirt
Mm-hmm.
to keep you, and
Yeah.
people have a lot of dirt.
Oh, yeah.
People have a lot of fucking dirt. You know what I mean? And not only do they have dirt, they have dirt in high places,
Mhm.
and that's really the ticket, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's the special
because
dirt.
That's the special dirt.
The enriched.
they hide it very well.
Yeah.
All right, let's
The
do some
Epstein
top
dirt.
threes of Necole, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
Sounds good.
Top three
All right, give it there.
cannabis of choice.
Well, like,
Cannabis strains of choice.
Okay, Nukin, Pink Kush, and Room D, which you'll never find that ever again, but that's
Oh no,
yeah.
wow, crazy.
Room D.
Yeah,
Room
that was
D.
my favorite.
Holy crap.
Why would we never find it again?
Because
Special.
it was one of those strains that came in, and the dispensary that I worked at, they named it.
Oh shit. Okay.
So, and then I never saw what the cross was.
Mm.
So it was just like they probably just had a grower that came to them and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
I
Made
got
up some
this
magic.
batch," and that's it. And so they called it Room D.
Oh, Room D. Oh, you know where
Room
that
D.
was made?
Where?
In Room D.
I almost, my heart, literally.
It was in
I
Room
was
D,
about to be
obviously.
Like, where can I get it?
Yeah, they were like, shit,
Oh
I don't know what
my
to call it. I'm out of
God.
names, bro.
I literally thought I was going to be able to cook my ass up. Thank you.
I'm out of names, bro. It's called fucking
It's too
Room
easy.
D.
It's too
Yeah.
easy.
All right,
It was so good.
here's my question. Top three, if you can name them, people you've smoked weed with. Do you remember top person you ever smoked, like the most amazing, or whatever experience or person that you were like, fuck, this is hilarious, or this was awesome?
I actually, Ms. D, I'm going to give a shout out to Ms. D.
Oh yeah, Miss D.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ms. D was she took
girl.
me under my wing. She was the first person I met in the
really?
cannabis
Toronto.
space. I used to go to her house for reggae
Yeah.
canna parties and
She's
stuff in
big in
Deep Cove.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
really
Ms.
big.
D is
That's
a
dope.
cannabis.
That's
She's
cool.
like the Dopra of cannabis.
Is she the Dopra?
Yeah.
It's interesting. We didn't really talk about music much at all during this episode. It's
But
just rare.
she's not a musician. She's a cannabis.
Oh no, the music is to my next question.
Oh, your next question. Okay.
if you could only take 3 artists' catalog with you to whatever the afterlife is, what 3 artists would you choose?
Well, I'm not really down with the artists per se, but I'll give you the genres
Okay.
that I will take with me. I'm gonna have to take soca because soca is
Energy.
is all of, happy things.
Yes.
It's happy things.
Yes.
So soca definitely has. I am a house head.
Okay.
So I do love my house.
Like what years?
Like
Decades?
90s.
90s house.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Sort of that 90s house kind of Frankie Knuckles, that type of thing. And then it's between. I'm gonna just say a genre of 90s hip hop. R&B type of stuff. I will take
Nice.
that because reggae will
Nice.
also go in there
Yes.
during that genre. So
Yeah,
pretty good.
that's a good choice. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Soca.
yeah.
Soca's just like
Okay, everybody, I have
Towels
yet
in
to
sight.
actually play mass, and that is a goal after COVID stops doing it.
Yes. Yes.
Dude,
yes.
I was never going to I'm a DJ and I'm like, that's it. It's over. I retired, got all my gear and everything. I'm just going to be the old man comes in and tells a bunch of jokes and sings some Frank Sinatra and leaves the DJ to the young
The
bucks,
young
right?
ones.
But now I'm like, I'm getting back and I'm not going to go and fucking play Footloose and all that shit anymore. That stuff's over. I'm going back to like thinking like soca.
Yes.
Hey? Like soca infused house music.
Oh my God, give it to me. Yes.
I wanted to do swag house music.
Yes.
Have
I
you ever
love
heard
it.
swag?
Yes, I have. I've been
Right?
through. Yes.
I was thinking like I'm gonna become a swag house DJ.
Bring it. I'm here for it. Listen.
Infused with soca.
Caribbean roots never die. Hey,
For
we
real.
dance till the end of time.
Oh,
so
for
I'm
real.
here for it. So yeah, but that would be my things.
Damn.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question here. We need leaders in our world.
Yes.
Give me 3 people you think on the planet could be great leaders that aren't in that position. Or even maybe if they are, like people that we need to like think about following or think about their opinions.
It's really hard because like
Maybe just
Big question.
even one. Yeah, it's a tough one.
it's a tough one because like I'm really trying with people, right? Like I'm really trying to kind of like see like that people are gonna like take some, like what I will say is again the genre. I'm really impressed with the Gen Z population. I think that and I watch a lot of TikTok videos, so you get to see a lot of them were out.
They're
in
active.
the protests.
Yeah, they're very active.
They might not want to ask for extra sugar at the coffee shop, but they are out in these streets. They're not giving a flying fuck, and I love that, right? Their energy is like, I feel like they're going to be amazing leaders.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, they've been very, very, very active in the streets. It's fun. It's good to see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
that's really cool.
Yeah. So I'm inspired by them, and they're actually quite clever. I just am inspired by what they're doing, and I think that especially during like a COVID time, like they were out there.
Yeah.
Leading.
you
Well, because
know?
they believe they couldn't
Fighting
catch
their
COVID.
families. No, not even that. Not even being out there, but fighting their families.
Yeah, I see some of that.
Dissing, you know how many of them were kicked out?
Yeah.
At
Outing their
16,
parents for
outing
being
their-
racist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for being racist, and I just feel like that is really
That's
inspiring
huge.
to see.
Very,
you
very
know?
big.
So yeah.
That's cool.
And
That's a
if,
great answer.
if people want to have this infused cooking experience, where can people find you?
Oh, I am at Faded Living on all social media platforms. So
Every single one.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, those things. And my website is going to be launching in about a week or so, which
Nice.
is fadedliving.com.
Nice.
And basically, you can reach out to me during the social media streets and DM me
awesome.
for stuff.
And Mike is going to give you a detailed breakdown as to how he thought the food was so far.
Yeah.
I've only dabbled, so I haven't jumped in yet, but I definitely will as well. And we'll get Queezi to leave his review on the deliciousness of the food, which he's already doing, because that's
Awesome.
how we get down in high
Yay,
praise.
Love it, long time.
I'm Alite, ALITE, ACDJ. Getting a little faded.
That was good. Yeah, I drank the whole ginger beer.
You did
there,
it all.
and
I
was
can't
like-
believe it.
I was thinking, what time is it right now? I feel like I've
But
been here for
you rolled with this well.
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, I really enjoyed all of it. All of it was really on the same palette, which was really good. It was
Yeah.
all very warm food.
Yeah.
You know, the Jamaican patty and the chutney was great. The chutney was really good. Wow. Really
Mike's enjoyed himself
Yeah, it was
quite
really
a
good.
bit
Thank you
tonight.
for coming in.
Oh, no, thank you
Fantastic.
so much for having
That was
me.
really good.
Nicole Hines, thank you for joining us. It
The
was a great
official
time.
chef. Anything we do now and we need chef, that's it. We have
what we're doing.
We have
That's
it.
what
You're
we're
the official
doing.
one.
Absolutely.
High phrase.
Yeah.
Faded living, y'all. Peace.
Thank you.